This episode of Constellation is sponsored by HelloFresh. One of the reasons I love HelloFresh is that it makes it easier for me to make smarter choices with my calories, thanks to their fit and balanced, wholesome recipes that feature fresh produce and are under 650 calories. Go to hellofresh.com/conapps for free appetizers for life. One appetizer item per box while subscription is active. That's free appetizers for life at hellofresh.com/conapps.
Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined today by a very special trio of guests. Let's get into introducing them. Brad Ellis. Good to see you, my friend. All the way from California.
That's right. Here on the West Coast.
A man or two out there in California. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing good. No one talks like that out here, but that'd be pretty interesting.
How was the Southern man talking about how I knew someone in California?
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I've been out there.
You know, I do like the Southern man lore. That is good.
Yeah.
You got to keep running with that. Yeah. That's good shit.
Yeah. The Southern man's getting a little more racist. You know, he's getting a little more, you know.
As you do.
Right. Yeah. We're kind of ratcheting it up a little bit.
He's getting sick and tired of some stuff.
Yeah.
He's reaching his boiling point.
Oh, he's sick and tired of something. Yeah. Good to see you, my friend. Matty, MrMattyPlays.
Hello.
Good to see you. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing good. I made a fun discovery today. I had to see the eye doctor, I think, because I was like, my left eye has like, sometimes it just starts to tear up. I'm like, what's going on? I noticed there's like a little small bit of yellow in the white of my eye, like a small bump, if you will.
Oh shit.
And naturally went to Google. Doesn't look alarming.
AIDS.
So we're good. Yeah. I have cancer.
Virus.
So I was just like, that's something I should probably look at. It's not like disturb me. It's just a mild inconvenience, but you know, I'm always erring on the side of safe rather than sorry, but otherwise good day. It's pouring right now. It's thunderstorming. I feel like I have a podcast curse where anytime I sit down to podcast, like the weather just really acts up. Last time this happened, my power got knocked out for like 2 days. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen here, but otherwise doing fantastic.
Good. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Eye issues scare the shit out of me.
Yeah. It's just on the white. So
yeah,
right.
That'll be all right.
Yeah.
We can take a look at it for you if you want.
Okay. Go ahead.
Real close to the
it's
camera.
Cheaper, right?
We'll see what we can do for you. Yeah, there you go. It looks fine.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
It's basically what my mom would say whenever I had anything wrong. It's fine.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Go outside and don't come back in.
Or the alternative, let me get the rectal thermometer because I don't think it's fine. That's the alternative when it comes to your family.
Yes. Do you know that my mom used a rectal thermometer on me? Did I ever talk to you guys about this on this show before?
No.
Now, when you say it like that, like in your ass?
Yeah, my ass, like a rectal thermometer in my butthole.
My mom gave my dad a thermometer thinking it was a normal one, and it was a rectal one for his mouth. How about that?
Good.
I got you beat out by one there.
Excellent. I feel like Dagan and I would joke around where I'm like, I feel like my mom just liked fucking with us a little bit. Because this was in like the 80s and into the 90s where I'm like, you don't need to be doing this like a mercury fucking rectal thermometer. What are we in the Victorian era?
Yeah.
You know, break. Anyway.
I actually don't know much about a rectal thermometer. Do you get a better read?
That's apparently the most accurate read you can get. Or like at least that was the case.
We'll figure that out, right? You ever think about that?
Like, I think here's what I think.
Shove this up my ass and see what happens, right?
Someone that liked butt play wrote that in a paper and no one checked it. They're like, yeah, it's the most accurate if you put it in your ass. You know, and everyone's like, okay. And then for like 80 years, they just did that. That's science. Micah Moriarty, my beautiful wife. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Speaking of butts, I'm just going to give a quick PSA to the dog owners out there. And I'm not going to share any gory details, but just a PSA. Treble had an anal gland infection last week. And I just want to say it happened so rapidly. She's completely fine, but it happened overnight. Like, wake up on Thursday, she had a very small bump next to her anus. And it just looked like a mosquito bite. And I was like, it's a weird place, but maybe that's all it is. And I talked to the vet and they're like, if it's that small, just watch it. Next day, the bump had like tripled in size. And I took her to the vet. They started her on antibiotics. She's 100% fine. But like just a thing of like, if you notice this, it can happen overnight. Suddenly it's just way worse. And just a quick, don't wait to see the vet. If your vet says it's a 2-week wait, just call and see if there's another one in the area that'll see your dog same day. Because once you start them on the antibiotics, they're going to be A-okay. But like, oh my God, it just happened so fast. And I was not expecting it. Nothing I read online told me would happen that quickly. So just watch your dog's butts. You got to keep an eye on their butts at all times.
Watch your mine over here.
Oh, yeah.
Just tucked away in the corner.
Beautiful pup.
Can't they give you priority? You're like, my dog's got a huge fucking boil on its ass. Like, it's growing. I need help.
You would hope.
2 weeks.
You'd hope that they would. I know that some places it is still like impossible to get a vet appointment post-COVID. We are very lucky that here there are so many dogs that there are literally 5 or 6 veterinarians within 10 miles of us. I can find one that'll see us same day, almost guaranteed. So it's like we're just lucky in the area where we live that there are so many dog owners and the demand is so high. Like one time Rush had this ear infection. Our vet couldn't see him. Another one was like, oh yeah, just come on in. But yeah, it just was like startlingly fast how quickly her butt went from looking okay to not okay. So you got to keep an eye on those dog butts. They need a watchful eye on them.
And a warm compress as well.
The warm compress every hour did become that was a thing. That was a moment shared between my dog and I.
My dogs are so sickly. They must love us at the vet because Rush has always got a problem.
Oh,
Rush already had reconstructive knee surgery.
Yeah, and then we had to last month get Rush tested for cancer. He's fine. He doesn't have cancer. It cost us $300 to find out he did not have cancer, but he's fine and he doesn't have cancer. Yeah, it's always something.
Okay.
All right. Good to see
you guys are handling it very well.
Oh, what'd you say, Matty? I'm sorry.
I was just saying you guys are handling it very well. I'd be like so depressed.
I mean, we were upset at the time, but then it's like we just waiting a week for these test results, and then we get the news that he's 100% fine, and it's like, so he's Happy fine, days. And we paid for it. But what can you do? Otherwise, they were like, the alternative is to wait 3 months and see if the lump disappears, and then if it doesn't, then it's definitely cancer. And it's like, well, waiting 90 days to start treatment seems like a bad idea. So I guess we got to send it. But it's always something.
Yeah. Rush is fine, but Micah knows already because I mean she lives with us and Rush loves her very much. But when something happens to Rush eventually, I'm going to kill myself. So
no.
So just letting everyone else know that as well. Because when he had the bump, I was getting worried about him for a little while, and then it started going down. So I was like, yeah. And we knew that he got a shot there as well, and all that. So I was like, okay. But that stuff does go through my mind. Sometimes he's only 4, but where I'm like, I'm not going to handle this well. Like,
right.
Oh, dude, all the time with Rufus. Like he's right here next to me. Like when I first moved in here, like the house felt. It was just me, Laylee, and Forrest like this little tiny dog. We're in this like decent sized house, and it just felt so empty until we got Rufus. And he's only 1. And I think about it all the time. I'm like, man, that's gonna be a tough day. But I'm right there with you on that.
That's the end. I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna go into the woods.
No,
I actually say I want to be, as everyone knows, I want to be cremated. But I'm like, they're gonna. I tell when Mike is around, I say to Rush, I'm like, they're gonna put us in the coffin together. Yeah. Which is something my mom used to say to me, actually, which is kind of scary.
Well, no, I was going to say, I'm the one who's really going to feel it because Treble and I have the same birthday, which was really cool when we first found out. And then I was like, someday this is just going to suck that it's going to be my birthday and Treble's like dead. But it's like for right now, it's really cool. But in like 10 years or so, it's going to be really sad.
Jeez.
Right. Enough of that.
Great start.
We were really on a good roll with the positivity there. For talking about asses and whatnot.
Now we're talking about fucking dogs dying. The ultimate low.
Great. Let me take a look at the email here and see where we're at. Okay. Well, Matty, let's go to you first because you changed your topic, which is fine because something happened this morning from when we're recording that I think is worth discussing. So take it away.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Game Informer. As you mentioned, I had a different topic planned, but then this news struck, and I feel like everyone's got a little memory with Game Informer at some point in their life, or at least I'd imagine so. For those of us who grew up gaming. This is a publication that's been around for 33 years. I distinctly remember for me, subscribing to Game Informer when I went to naturally GameStop, and I'd get the print every month. And it was, growing up, especially the magazine was super important. I know as like the internet's grown, like it's less and less important. But even as I got older, I used Game Informer's website very frequently to specifically play in ham radio. By the time we got to Defining Duke, what I noticed with Game Informer that it changed a lot is their online coverage was sparse. Like they did not hit, even sometimes they would just skip highlights. Like they just would not cover certain things online. I didn't really understand that. I guess maybe they were focusing their efforts somewhere else, but I used to use them even frequently in my like young adulthood. So they've kind of been with me on this journey where this is, one of those losses where like, I know people typically like celebrate the death of games journalism, and I think it's fair in cases like Kotaku, like, fuck off. But in cases like Game Informer, like I think, they did it right for a while. They're like, a classic publication, and, were responsible, at least when I was in my teen years, for exposing me to a lot of games. You always wonder what the cover game would be. And like I said, even into my young adulthood, like I would sometimes their cover stories would be like key to the videos I'd make. I actually distinctly have one memory. I think it was Ben Hansen, who I think he's at MinMax now.
Yeah, he's the owner.
Yeah. I remember when he worked at Game Informer, I did it's a funny story. They had this exclusive story on the Outer Worlds. And I guess it was for like digital subscribers only at the time. And I like screenshotted everything and put it up onto a video and like, talked about the news that was there because I thought it was fair game. And I remember getting an email from him saying like, if you do that again, like we're gonna have to like strike your channel. I was like, holy shit. So yeah, they played hardball over there too. Obviously all good. No harm done there. But
Interesting.
Yeah, like just a lot of memories with them, man. Like throughout my whole life. So to see them going, it's especially GameStop still somehow hanging on. Very sad day, in my opinion. Normally, I have to admit a little, I'm sympathetic to the people, but for like what games journalism is and what it's become, I'm a little more indifferent to it at times. But this is one that I was like, dang, man, like this kind of sucks. So obviously I want to hear from you guys and gal on what, memories, if any, you have with Game Informer as a publication. Obviously I imagine this will turn into us talking about like just where games journalism is at in general, but just were you guys subscribers of the magazine? Were you frequent readers of what they did? Did you eventually stop reading them? If so, when? Go ahead, take it away.
All right, yeah. Well, Brad, let's go to you first.
Oh, sure. So I think I had a Game Informer subscription just through GameStop. Like, I don't remember what that whole deal was, but I had it then. But I remember at the time it was kind of...
Yeah, you get that's right. It's like a membership thing, and it's part of that.
Yeah,
you get the card, and there were 2 levels of the card. I think it was like Pro and Elite. And you would get the subscription for the magazine on top of it. I actually remember at GameStop, like they started to devalue the magazine by like forcing it in. Like they would just sign you up anyway, like that sort of shit. Sorry, go on.
I think it was something maybe like, because I honestly didn't really care about having it. I remember I'd get it and I'd just like briefly skim through it. But I feel like at the time I had it, most print was kind of irrelevant already or getting there. Like when I was looking at magazines, it was mostly like Nintendo Power and EGM kind of stuff back in the day. So I don't have like a big history with Game Informer at all, but I know a lot of people do. And it was cool to still see a print magazine, I guess, getting big cover stories and stuff, even in the 2020s and all that kind of stuff, which is pretty rare. But it's just like, I don't know how many people were actually reading it. Everyone I see talking about it is like, yeah, man, great memories with Game Informer, but nothing kind of really modern that I see anyone talking about, which is a problem. Like Matty, you're saying how they were not updating their online presence at all or whatever. Like the news, it's just like very bizarre to me. I don't know what really is going on in there. And I'm not blaming the employees. I'm sure it's just mismanagement, all that kind of stuff. But it's just like, when I saw the news, I was just kind of like, oh yeah, well, I expected this to happen. I'm surprised it took this long, frankly, to happen.
This episode of Constellation is sponsored by HelloFresh. Let's be honest, going to the grocery store can be a bit annoying. Between planning out all your meals with what you need to buy, along with finding everything in a busy aisle, it can become a real chore. Plus, half the time, I don't even know what to make at home. As much as we love grilling hot dogs and burgers, by the end of summer, we're ready for a change. And finding new recipes online can be a pain. Seriously though, why do recipe blogs need to include a novel for a chili recipe? So ditch the meal planning woes and dive into HelloFresh with their biggest menu yet, with over 50 recipes to choose from. HelloFresh is quick and convenient recipes that are delivered right to your door. Just pick your meals and a delivery date. HelloFresh will handle the planning, shopping, and most of the prep work, so all you have to do is open it up and start cooking. One of the reasons I love HelloFresh is that it makes it easier for me to make smarter choices with my calories, thanks to their fit and balanced, wholesome recipes that feature fresh produce and are under 650 calories. Go to hellofresh.com/conapps for free appetizers for life. One appetizer item per box while subscription is active. That's free appetizers for life at hellofresh.com/conapps.
What about you, Micah?
Yeah, I had always had the subscription through GameStop. I was a big GameStop shopper back in the day. So I probably had the Game Informer subscription starting like 2012 because I was a Power Up Pro member.
That's what
and a lot of my stuff is from Power Up Rewards. My Borderlands Claptrap figures, 2 of those are from Power Up Rewards. Like I have a bunch of random stuff over the years that I've gotten from their rewards program where you shop, earn points, exchange them for things. I had this sweet companion cube lunchbox that I always brought to work, and people would always compliment it. They didn't know what it was, but they just thought it was a cool lunchbox. So I loved GameStop. And of course, the Game Informer subscription came with your Power Up Pro membership. And it was fun to get the magazines every month. I'm someone who still likes getting magazines. We had done that as a topic on Constellation before of just magazines in general. I still subscribe to, at least one magazine just because I like getting them in the mail. I think it's fun. It is nostalgic to a time when I just remember mom picking up magazines at the grocery store now and then. She'd get like Family Circle, which also doesn't exist anymore. And she'd bring that home and leaf through it, or the Women's Health, whatever, Women's Day, whatever it is. And it's just a nostalgia for that time of getting your news through magazines. But it really doesn't need to exist anymore. Like Brad said, it's more of a surprise that they got this far, like 2024, because I remember for a bit when GameStop was heavily pushing the digital subscription instead, for example, like they were really trying to get you to sign up for digital instead of print, which I tried. And it just felt so strange to be flipping through a pretty lengthy magazine on a tablet. It wasn't easy to go back and forth between articles. I remember going back to print after that because I was like, no, this doesn't work. This doesn't feel the same at all. But I loved the magazine. I stopped shopping at GameStop, though. It was when Amazon Prime started doing, it was something crazy, like 20% off on video games if you had Prime.
I missed that. It was so
That's
good.
right. That was crazy. Yeah.
The wild west of Amazon doing 20% off on video games. I started pre-ordering to there instead of GameStop. They discontinued that program, but the habits were set for a lot of consumers of, well, you order it from Amazon and you get release day delivery if you have Prime. You don't have to go to the store to pick it up. Mm-hmm. And that was just kind of the end of me heavily shopping at GameStop. I would still go there occasionally. I still do go there occasionally. But the pre-orders and everything really stopped for me once Amazon did that, even after they took the deal away. So Game Informer, unfortunately, I haven't read it in a few years, but I definitely do have great memories of it, checking out, their top game lists, for example, for the year, waiting to see what they had ranked as the best games, and learning about new games, learning about new series through them, things I hadn't heard of before. Because I was a pretty new gamer. I started playing Xbox in 2011, and I was totally new to what was current. I hadn't really gamed since like my Game Boy days, essentially. So for me, it was like all these new series and titles that I'd never heard of before. Game Informer was big in just getting me kind of up to speed on what was out there. It is sad to see them go. It's also disappointing, as you mentioned, Matty, that they didn't try more to stay current, that they didn't really pivot to being a website instead. It's really disappointing that they tried so hard to force the magazine, that now the whole thing is closing. So I don't know. I'm very disappointed in the news, but Also not super surprised, like Brad said.
Yeah.
It really did feel like I contributed to it by no longer signing up for it through GameStop and really having no desire to sign up for it outside of GameStop either. So it just truly shows how consumers shift their focus over the years.
It's interesting to hear you guys talk about it because I'm older than all three. Well, Brad's a little closer in age to me, but Game Informer came out. I don't remember. Game Informer came out, I think, in 91. I don't even remember it existing for years. Like, it wasn't until I was older that I even knew what Game Informer was. I think part of this was because I was very much in them fanboy trenches. So I loved Nintendo Power, probably through the GameCube era, or into the GameCube era at least. And I was a huge fan of PSM. I got PlayStation Magazine in the mail from the second episode, or the second issue, all the way through into the PS3, basically. And I have all of them upstairs in my attic in boxes. And I used to get EGM2, which I was a huge fan of. For people that don't remember, EGM2 was all strategy guide shit. And it was like a niche kind of like side publication. And that really got me into strategy guide writing. And Next Generation was a magazine I got for a while. So I got a few of them, but I never got Game Informer. But I do have a lot to say about them just because I have perspective from them from being in the industry, specifically in media, and the power that they wielded. And what I don't think people realize is that Game Informer was an exceptionally powerful publication. When I was at IGN, we had kind of ultimately 3 different silos of competition. We had like the GameSpots and whatnot, which were like the traditional competition, which we felt like we kind of vanquished by the middle of the PS3 era. And then we had the wikis, which they're still fighting that battle today with all of that. But then there was this really weird third pillar, which were the magazines. And so the reason that magazine, I don't know if people really connected the dots like this, but this is really literally the way it would go. People know Ryan McCaffrey over at IGN, a friend of mine. When we brought him on, he came from a magazine background. And one of the things that we wanted him to do was to make us a better location for exclusives, specifically reveals. And what we realized from talking to PR people over the years about, we're going to announce a new whatever. And it's like, cool, could we get that on IGN? It's like, no, we're going with Game Informer. And it's like, why? Game Informer has a fraction of our audience and all that. And they're like, yeah, but there are 2 things about getting on the Game Informer cover. Number one, I have a magazine. I can go into the office of the CEO and put it on his desk. Say, look, we revealed Destiny. Well, actually, we leaked Destiny on IGN before it was properly revealed. But like a game like that, I think literally because, as I've said in the past, we have a source that found a binder in a bar with all of the Destiny shit in it that someone left there. That's literally how it happened.
Wow.
And
catastrophic, man.
Yeah, and we held it for a while, and like we worked with Activision for a while on what we were going to do, but it was like all of it. And people can go read all those stories because we eventually got those out. But the big thing with that is like we have you can have the top page on IGN for a day, and that's very valuable. Back in the day, it's not so valuable anymore. But we have a magazine, and we can like show it to people and be like, look, we have the magazine cover, and the magazine cover sits at GameStop's counter, and it makes it easy to pre-order. It makes it easy to do all, like Game Informer had a very disproportionate level of power, specifically because of GameStop and specifically because it was like the last magazine hanging on after all the other ones went away.
Like mindshare almost.
It kept it around, and it kind of arbitrarily kept it powerful for a much longer period of time than made any sense. And that was kind of my exposure to them. So when we brought Ryan McCaffrey on to run Xbox, we knew that he had his own kind of magazine cover pitch. And this is where, I don't know if they still do it anymore, but this is where the whole IGN first thing comes from, is the idea that we need something to compete with Game Informer's covers. So what we're going to do is give you a month of coverage on the site where you'll always be present in a top story. You'll always be present with a thumbnail somewhere and all that kind of stuff. And we went around, I was part of the team that went around and did this because I was in charge of PlayStation coverage at the time, where we went to, and I remember we sat in usually you'd go to Sony HQ in San Mateo and you would meet with whoever you were there to meet with. And that's it. But we sat in a huge conference room with all of their PR people, every one of them, probably 40, or something like that, and pitched them on this whole deck and this whole idea of IGN first and how it's going to be better than Game Informer and all of these kinds of things. So from a competitive standpoint, that's where they where they come in, and I think the thing about Game Informer is the same thing about GameStop, in that no matter what you do, you're going to be forced into irrelevance. There's always going to be a place for magazines, I actually believe this, and print publications. But and this is where the idea of the PlayStation, do I have one on me? My friend Sandeep Rai's new retro PlayStation magazine that he's doing, I think they're on the 4th or 5th issue. I was one of the major inspirations for that, because I said that is what I would do, is do something like retro if I was going to make a magazine, something that's more timeless and can sit on a coffee table or whatever. Yeah. And there's always going to be a place for that, as long as you keep your head count really low, your margins thin, and all of those kinds of things. But nonetheless, the idea of a magazine being mailed to you and sent to you and put in your mailbox, it's done. There's nothing you can really do about that, with rare exception. And it shares the same. They're holding hands with, it's like Thelma and Louise, like holding hands with GameStop, being like, well, GameStop's fucked too. Like, there's nothing you can really do about it. Eventually, it's going to be over. And so that's kind of a fascinating model. I take no pleasure in, we used to, I was at IGN from 2000 as a freelancer and an editor from 2002 until 2014. And we took a lot of pleasure in killing magazines and killing other websites and all of that. But at this point, and I'm way out of I'm 10 years removed from my journalist days. It's like, I don't really, I wouldn't take pleasure in that anymore, because there's really nothing left. Like, Game Informer is the end, just like GameStop is basically the end. So that's kind of where my mind goes. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this before. I've never been. So Game Informer is in Minnesota, and I've never been to their offices in Minneapolis, but apparently, and I don't know if you guys know this kind of industry lore, they apparently have like one of the most insane game libraries ever.
I believe it.
Basically, like, at IG, I was in charge of the library for a while at IGN. We had a huge library of games too, but people would just take games. I mean, like, including me. So like, and you were supposed to bring them back or whatever, but I'd be like, oh, I want a Knight's Contract or whatever. Okay, I'll take that. And like all that and whatever. And then, but they apparently were really crazy about their library. And they apparently have like a library going back to the NES with like all of the games, all of the early copies of games. Did you guys ever get early Game Boy Advance games where they came in really fat cartridges that you would put in, like all these weird things, the PSP UMDs that were, translucent, and they would come early and all that kind of stuff. They have all of that shit. And I was thinking when I read the news this morning, I'm like, damn, dude, that really should, if that's true, and I think it is, that shit's got to be donated to someone like immediately. Because that's the most, unfortunately for you guys, the most valuable thing that you're going to be known for is having this really complete, they probably even have like ROM dumps and stuff of games that the source code might be gone for these things and stuff like that. Like the Mega Man World games are a really good example of that, where those never came out because Capcom doesn't even know where they are.
I never heard of those.
Yeah, so that's where my mind went with Game Informer. It's a sad situation, but as a former competitor, it's interesting to see them fall off. And is the company MinMax? Those are them, right? Because that's MinMax is obviously a reference to min-maxing your character, but also it's MINN because they're in Minnesota. So they're from there, right? Those are like the vestiges
Some
of
of them. Ben Hansen was from Game Informer, I know, and he's like the main min-max guy.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't really know anything about them. I've never really watched their content, but I do look in on them, and they seem to be like a sturdy Patreon, a sturdy kind of brand. Almost, I mean, I don't know if you see it this way, Brad, but kind of the vestiges of what Easy Allies spirit was, I think is kind of in them now.
Yeah.
Did you guys look at them like that when you were at Easy Allies as like your kind of prime competitor?
Yeah, mostly them, and I'd say like Kind of Funny. Just the Patreon gaming things, essentially.
Interesting. It's weird that you didn't look at us bigger than both of those companies.
No, I looked at you. I looked at you. No one else probably even really knew.
Bigger than Kind of Funny and MiniMax on Patreon combined, but no big deal. We weren't a big competitor over there. It's not a big deal.
Colin, sometimes when you get so big, there's no point in trying to beat the king at his own game.
That's fair enough.
Not possible.
Well, that's why I had to
set realistic goals.
I had to eat a little bit of humble pie when Second Wind crested above us, but then they fell back below us, so I don't feel so bad anymore. It's like
you should never feel bad. You built something incredible, dude.
Thanks, appreciate it. We're number one.
Dude. If anyone's interested in more publication stuff, I just want to throw this out here. It's called Lock On. They have 6 volumes right now, and this thing goes pretty hard. What they do is it's a I don't know how frequent the installments are. Like this new one that's announced for volume 006 ships Q3 this year. So soon. And they work with like content creators. Like they actually asked me to write something for Final Fantasy IX for, I think it was volume 4, but I never ended up getting the time to do so. But they go from like indie to big AAA and kind of cover everything. It's kind of what you described, Colin, where you could buy these and just have them sit around. Like they have that evergreen value. They got Yoshitaka Amano to do some of the illustrative work for like their cover art for volume 6.
Wow, that must have been very expensive.
100%.
I can't even imagine how expensive that is.
It's I am 8-bit. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have this next one's focusing on Final Fantasy and Legend of Zelda. Slip through the fingers of reality as we explore the surrealist worlds of Oxenfree and Alan Wake before we tumble out of that rabbit hole into the cheery landscapes of Disney Illusion Island and Frog Detective. They just go across everything with like obviously their main focus for this with Yoshitaka Amano is going to be like, hey, let's hone in on like Final Fantasy, but they have a lot of other side pieces. So it's, to my understanding, more historical, developer interviews, like really focusing on the history of stuff. But if anyone's interested in that, like they're really not that expensive, even for like a hardcover copy. And they're all sold out. But I'm looking at their website on Lost in Cult, and like they had Yoshitaka Amano signed editions.
Wow.
Yeah, and so those sold for a lot, and they're all sold out. So it's kind of collectible for people. There's a soft cover and a hardcover version if you're interested. They have I'm looking right now for £100. I don't know what the US equivalent to that would be, but they have a story.
At this rate, about $100. Sorry, yeah. British people.
They have a story so far. So if you want to collect them all, so 1 through 6, you can do that. It's really cool. It's really, really cool stuff. The Lock On 5 cover is Scorn. I think they also have one for The Last of Us. They have Rollerdrome. Like they have. It's very artistic, very, again, history driven. You learn a lot, and you get all different voices involved, including at one point almost my own. So yeah, there's other content creators who get involved, journalists who get involved, and they'll write their own long form essays about like what games did for them. So it could kind of accomplish in a more intimate way the same thing Game Informer did of like spreading that awareness, like, oh, what's Oxenfree? And like someone writes a whole piece on like what Oxenfree did for them and why they love it or why it's great or what's the best thing about it. The custom artwork, concepts, developer interviews, that sort of thing. So it's a really good thing they got going on here. Not a ton of publications where, you know, you can kind of catch up on this if you want to, but I thought it was a good time to shout them out because with Game Informer going, some people do seek out that kind of nostalgic feeling of getting the magazine in the mail. And this isn't quite it, but I think it's something that'll last you a lot longer. Like this one's over 400 pages long.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a pretty chunky one for how much they charge. Honestly, very surprisingly cheap. But yeah, I thought it was good stuff and just wanted to shout that out. The other thing I thought of, Colin, when you were talking about other publications and stuff is like while Game Informer was like a big memory of mine, I think it's funny as a host of Finding Duke, but like the official Xbox magazine was mine because it came with a demo disc. Like that was the centerpiece of like me discovering things. It was like throwing that thing in there, and so much of my childhood was discovered through those demo discs. Like just getting your hands on the game. Like that was the one thing that never was trumped in my opinion. Like obviously once you get your own income, you can just read about a game and then try it out for yourself. But like it was a long time before I got to that point. So. The official Xbox magazine was like king in my eyes. It still kind of is, like just that those demo disc covers. I don't think I have them with me, but my favorite one was like 7, I think, or 8, because it had like Dead or Alive and Spider-Man. Like it had so many games that I loved. I think it had Halo Combat Evolved. Like it had so much good shit on it. So yeah, shout out to the official Xbox magazine. That was a good time too in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I think that's where McCaffrey came from.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's fun to think about the model, like the business model. And I think we're in agreement. It's like, I love these idea of boutique items, just like Etsy art and stuff, where if you're just like 1 or 2 people, you're 4 people, whatever, you create this thing, you have a circulation of 5,000. There's that magazine Nintendo Force that does the same thing. That's run by a guy I used to work with at IGN. What the fuck is his name? He was a freelancer. He used to like do all the like the obscure reviews. Why can't I think of Lucas Thomas? And
I know that name, yeah.
And he runs Nintendo Force, which is like a fairly popular print magazine for Nintendo that's been going for a while. And they have some sort of cooperation with the Nintendo. I don't know if they were, I think they're on Patreon, and I think they put up an issue every other month or something like that. But
yeah, they are on Patreon.
I've said before that
cool.
I love the idea of doing that kind of thing. I've said it many times. I mean, anyone can pursue it if they want. I already own 2 businesses, so I'm really kind of stretched thin as it is. But should I ever like soft retire from this in the future or whatever, or do something else or whatever, I really do think that a print boutique strategy guide label would be so cool. And you could do them both officially and unofficially. Like it used to be Prima and Brady back in the day doing the official guides, and then you had companies like Versus doing the unofficial guides. I have an unofficial Final Fantasy 3 guide from the SNES era, and it would be cool to do those, because I think if you could just make them and then sell a few thousand copies, I think you can actually make a bit of money doing that, and people want that kind of stuff. And some people just like the print. I learned this when we started releasing physical games at Lilymo. I was like, holy shit. Not only do people, we printed 1,000 copies of whatever we did first. What do we do first? Perils? Yes. And we printed 1,000 copies, and I'm like, I don't know if we're even going to sell these. And then they were gone in like 30 minutes. And people were like, you're only selling them for $34.99. And I'm like, yeah, it's like fine. And they're like, dude, look at how much people are selling all these things for. And I'm like, okay. So when we did the next print run, which we'll do later in the year, it's like we doubled that, and I still think we're going to sell through them. And you can make a lot of money. It's not that you have to have some capital to put forward, but if you're printing these physical games, you're talking about $10 a copy or something like that, gross, at scale. And so it would be the same thing for print mags. And I feel like there's something really cool about that. The only universe where I know that print is still somewhat in vogue is in politics, with like weekly and bi-weekly magazines like The Economist and National Review and shit like that. But even then, they're in the hundreds of thousands circulation. It used to be millions for a lot of these magazines. And so it's all truncating. It's difficult the beauty of the internet is once you're on the internet, and you said this, Matty, about their sparse internet presence. And actually, Brad, you can relate to this because of what happened with game trailers, where game trailers died because it refused to embrace YouTube, right? And
yeah, the video player was a huge issue.
Right. Like going on YouTube, I get it. Like it's a choice. But if game trailers just embraced YouTube, probably would still be a huge force today. And there are just little tweaks that you have to make in your environment should you be there. And Game Informer couldn't make the tweak because supporting more online coverage just waters down the inherently late and latent magazine coverage. And its attention, you can't have both of those things. It doesn't make any sense unless you keep them totally siloed, and they just didn't learn how to work around that. It's like, yeah, we have that's why they started like teasing their upcoming covers, because they were going to leak. And we always knew what was going to be on the next Game Informer cover because we were working with the same PR people. And it's like, oh, do you guys want to give us a build or do something on this? And it's like, oh no, we're going to be on Game Informer's cover in May. And I was like, oh, okay. So then we would know. It's interesting to think about it. RIP in peace. Game Informer. That's basically the end of the major magazines, right? In games. So
the end of an era.
Smaller ones, yeah. Because I'm looking at Nintendo Force. This is pretty cool. It's like $5 a month. The Lost and Cold thing I was talking about also has a digital membership if anyone's interested. Looks like so does Nintendo Force. So some have adapted for sure. I also don't want to oversell Game Informer's like lack of online presence. What I mean more so is like they still had their website running. Like it's funny. I went to their website to like see when their last articles were, but it's just straight up like their goodbye post, and like you can't go anywhere else. So like that's it. But like I said, I use that site a ton for ham radio, especially less for like defining Duke, because they went from like every bit of news. It was really like when I think Imran Khan worked there, like he was just pumping shit out constantly for the site. But once he left, I feel like a lot of the online coverage went with him, because like from there it was just like, oh, this game got announced, and like they cover that, and then they would have no posts for like 3 days, which is absurd, because you go to like, I'll use IGN as part of like my script work for defining Duke, and I'll just go to their Xbox section, and it's like every fucking couple hours there's something new in there. And so to have a website publication just not pumping out anything except highlights is just, I thought, super ill advised. So Part of me wonders a little bit if their fate was kind of accepted at some point down the road. Like, this is not going to make a difference. Let's just kind of ride it out and have fun with what time we have left.
I'm sure. At Game Trailers, we knew for a long time the boat was sinking.
Yeah, exactly. And so, because I mean, there's different ways of handling, right? It seems like they wanted to go the more publication route. I can't fault them for that. But like Kotaku's like, we're going to go down like a piece of shit, right? Like, we're just going to go down swinging every step of the way. We're going to go down like baiting you and making you pissed, and you're going to remember us for not good reasons. But that's their way they chose to go out. So yeah, I do wonder if there was a degree of making peace with, the inevitable and just doing what they thought would be the most enjoyable. And I can't fault them for that.
Yeah, it's funny, man. There are some websites where like Push Square is a really exceptional website in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I use Video Games Chronicle as well. Yeah. But the more you write these shows, like we want to write our shows every week, as you're saying, the more I'm just like, I don't even need to go to some of these places because they just never have anything, and I stop going to them.
I usually will use like IGN to farm the headlines. Like, okay, because they're just going to scrape everything, right? Mm-hmm. And then go to the other sites for the deeper coverage, because I just don't. You never get all the angles at IGN anymore, in my opinion. It used to be like the premier place, but like, now I use Pure Xbox, which is like the sister.
Yeah, Push Square sister.
Push Square. Yeah. So that's another good one. Yeah, those smaller sites to me are way more effective and better, and frankly try a little harder, it feels like.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. I have a backline to Push Square, and I talk to those guys sometimes, and I tell them, I'm like, I'm surprised that you don't even publish more. Mm-hmm. I've pitched them multiple times because I like Push Square so much, where I'm like, why don't you make Sacred Symbols your official, like an official partner of Push Square? This is what I pitched them, as I was like, you put Sacred Symbols on your timeline every week when it goes live, and we make Push Square the official news source of Sacred Symbols, so we source it more than we usually do. They're not interested because they want to keep open their opportunity to do an audio podcast. And what I want to ask them is like, why bother? Because I'll just kill it.
I was gonna say, but I don't want to be a dick. I'm glad you said it.
Damn. But no, I Sammy Barker and those guys. Those are really great guys over there. And so it's funny what I do, Matty, when I write the shows is I go to PlayStation blog first, if there's any official stuff, and then I go to Video Games Chronicle, and then I go to Push Square, and then I go to Games Industry, and then I go to Gamatsu, and the Game Leaks subreddit. Same. And between those things,
leaks,
you have pretty much everything you need. And then what I basically do, to be perfectly honest, is unless it's like an original piece of news, is I go and try to find the press releases for all the stories and go to the original source. So I go to Games Press or whatever, or to
because sometimes there's information just left out that the writer finds they're like indifferent to, whether they don't know it's a big deal or not. And like, for example, when this is such a stupid deep cut example, but when this new TMNT game got a trailer, everyone was like, oh, it looks like a shitty kids game, which, I like mildly agree. And I went to the press release that was sent to me for it, and it was like defining what was like an open world experience and stuff. And it's just like, it seemed like no sites were covering it from that angle. So it's like, I think sometimes it's just best to go straight to the heart of where the information comes from, because like, you're just going to get everything, all the angles.
Yeah, and I don't need to source you when you're just regurgitating a press release that I know you're regurgitating, so I can just go get it myself.
Yeah.
Gamatsu is, for just game announcements, Gamatsu is like the best website. GEMATSU for people that don't use it. That website's great. It's run by one person too, and it always has been.
Is it really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Sal Romano is the guy's name. So, anything else to say about Game Informer, game magazines, anything like that? We give it a little soliloquy, I guess.
Yeah. Sad to see it go, but what are you going to do, man? Hope all those people can land jobs. But yeah, it sucks.
It's just the economics of the time. Like you just can't do it at the scale you're trying to do it anymore. And by the way, with a dying partner in GameStop.
Yeah.
The short sales and the spoofing of the stock aside, like that is a company with a time limit on it. And there's just nothing they can do. I don't know what you do. So did you guys see the stats? It's getting worse and worse, where Capcom was saying 92% of its games now are sold digitally. 92%.
Whoa, I did not know that.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Wow. So I remember when the numbers were like 40%, 50%, 60%. Now it's 92%. So you're not long for this world. I don't think,
My poor retro rebound channel. There it goes.
That shit doesn't really, I mean,
no, I'm kidding. Yeah. If anything, it'll help me.
Well, this is what I always say, Matty,
Matty,
about, they're like, well, what if people are like, what if PlayStation just went away? And I'm like, dude, I could just do a PlayStation retro channel for the rest of my life at this point.
Yeah.
Like there's 30 years of history. It's like, I don't know. I mean, it would suck for me as a fan of the brand and the consumer of the brand, but it's not going to like ruin my career,
Yeah.
Not at this point. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was fun. That was a fun conversation, uplifting. Michael, let's go to you for the next one.
All right. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about our favorite brand mascots. I love commercials. I always have loved commercials. I can tell you my all-time favorite commercial is there was I think it was a Gatorade or Powerade? It's getting fuzzy now because I'm getting old. Peyton Manning had, I believe, a Gatorade commercial, and he was in this like big action figure box. He was a life-size action figure was the joke, and like he shows up in the box at the kid's birthday party, and like he's throwing passes to the kids, and when he stops moving, they're like, he needs more juice, and they're spraying him with Powerade, and they had a song, and they're like, it's Peyton Manning, your very own action star, and I love that commercial.
It is Gatorade. It's Gatorade. 2001.
Yeah. Oh man, what a year, man. I forgot. I forgot what happened in 2001. I was like, fantastic year. Really had a great time. I was in 3rd grade, so things were fine. But yeah, I love commercials. And I was thinking more though about the mascots, particularly because some of my favorites have gone away. So I wanted to kind of poll you guys about if you had any nostalgia for some favorite mascots. I have my short list here that I wanted to go through. Number 1, Grimace. I fucking love Grimace from McDonald's. Oh my God. Isn't he just great? He's big and he's purple. He's just a big dope. I love Grimace. I don't know what he is. Some people say he's a taste bud. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's canon. Of course, you had the whole McDonald's gang, Mayor McCheese and all that. But Grimace, I really like Grimace. I think he's wonderful.
What about the Hamburglar?
Oh, Hamburglar. Fucking, I love Hamburglar too. I was trying to narrow it down, but Hamburglar is probably my second favorite McDonald Land character. Like he's wily and mischievous, a little bit of appeal for the moms out there. Hamburglar was great. The M&Ms. I love those. I like the Christmas M&M commercial that they bring back from like when Matty and I were kids. I love seeing that every Christmas again. I love that they didn't just make a new commercial. Like they just bring back this like letterbox commercial every year. That's fantastic. This one, I have to preface this by saying it was before the scandal. Jared Fogle. All right, because I said you could use real people. If you're Matty and I's age, this is before the scandal. If you're Matty and I's age, you'll remember the commercials. And it's like Jared Fogle coming to your middle school, and he's going to eat a sandwich, and you're going to run the track. And I always hoped we'd be the school that Jared Fogle would come to. I'm glad he didn't. I'm really glad he didn't. But at the time, you would hear about it, and it's like he's visiting middle schools across the country on his healthy eating initiative. And I was like, hell yeah, dog,
he was visiting
I want to go.
Right. He was definitely visiting those schools.
But it was like, I was a huge fan of his as a kid. I was devastated to learn the news. But like, he was one of my favorite brand mascots of the time. You know, Jared Fogle was a big deal back then. And I'm going to pivot to something else here. Entenmann's. Are you familiar with Entenmann's products? You know, the cakes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's not really a West Coast thing. Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Well, all right.
No,
Brad's forgiven for his insolence.
Yeah, I don't know what this is.
They have cinnamon rolls. They have cakes. They have all sorts of things. But their mascot,
I'll send you stuff. Yeah.
His name is Rich Frosted. He's a donut.
Rich Frosted.
Yeah, and he's a donut, and he sends me emails every month about new products and such. I love getting my emails from Rich Frosted. He's
Brad,
fantastic.
I put the link in here. Does this look familiar? Does this look familiar to you? This brand?
There's nothing better.
The logo kind of looks familiar. That's about it.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
know
what she's
this
talking
was
about.
Maybe I've seen. I've seen Little Bites. Those
Yeah.
I've seen.
Yeah, the little mini muffins, and they're excellent.
I've seen those. I don't know about the rest.
They're famously known for giving you like 3 in a fucking package, bro. Fuck them. That
that's
pissed me off just seeing that again, bro. As a kid, I felt so robbed every time by Entenmann's. Those fucking bastards.
And they were expensive too. Mini muffins were like, my mom would buy those on occasion. Dude. Oh yeah, that was
unreal.
You only got that as a special snack every now and then. That was not a weekly snack time thing. And you kind of didn't want it because there were so few in the pouch that, as delicious as they were, it's like, yeah, you get like 4 mini muffins.
You always had to.
It was terrible. Like, I'd be starving at school.
That was like, before it became a thing to make fun of like chip bags for giving you this big bag and then they fill up half of it, like Entenmann's were committing fucking crimes.
They still are.
I'm sure it's worse now.
The crumb cake. We're kind of putting here in the chat. The crumb cake is this fucking superior.
Oh.
Yeah, these are great.
This is where I don't know if you guys, this was a tradition and where I was from on Long Island, was like everyone's moms bought these cakes and then you'd leave the butter knife in the box to cut the cake apart. So like you would just leave a knife in it. And so when the next person got it, they would be able to open it and just take a knife and cut it open.
I'm sorry, I can't move on from this for a sec. Because like what really upsets me is I'm looking at like they had the Softies variety pack, 12 big fucking donuts. This crumb cake would go for a while too. So why do they cut corners on these fucking mini bites?
Yeah, I don't know.
What is so precious about them that
you should write to Mr. Entenmann? Oh, they're owned by Bimbo. Bimbo is a California company, so there probably is some. They weren't always, because when I grew up on Long Island and I was in the kind of the boonies on Long Island, we actually had an Entenmann's outlet where they would like bring the stuff that was about to go bad and you would buy it for like, a fraction of the price. And I think that's how I got going on my Entenmann's when I was a kid.
Cinnamon swirls. They did the cinnamon rolls. Yeah, man. Like they did. And they don't skimp on any of these. It doesn't make sense to me.
I think
I hope someone in the audience works with or for Entenmann's and can really provide the explanation I've needed my whole fucking life, clearly.
Yeah, I don't think those big out here. Like Hostess, Little Debbie were kind of the big thing out here. I'd say
similar
more
idea.
so.
Not as good. Entenmann's is better, but
I mean, it doesn't sound great. You're getting like 2 fucking muffins per pack.
Well, no,
shrinkflation.
that's only
That's
the
like
mini
a scam.
muffins. That's only the mini muffins. Okay, you get an Entenmann's Marshmallow Devil's Food Cake, man. I tell you what, you can't have anything better than that.
What is with people from Massachusetts and marshmallows? I don't fucking understand it.
Oh,
My sister-in-law's from Massachusetts and like loves fluff and all that shit.
Fluff, yeah.
Because it's in everything. Like, first of all, peanut butter and fluff is the default sandwich for a mass kid. Peanut butter and jelly. I remember when I heard that.
I was like, what the fuck's wrong with them?
Oh my God.
I gotta throw my co-host under the bus. Are you guys familiar with peanut butter and banana sandwiches?
Yeah, I actually used to eat those when I was a kid sometimes.
I do know about them. I don't really eat them, but I do know people do.
Aghast at this. Aghast. Like, he is being ridiculed by the audience as we speak, but he was like taken aback. I was like, yeah, dude, peanut butter banana. He's like, hold up, what? I just need to make sure, because the audience already had my back, but I need to make sure that everyone here in this company's enjoyed a good PBB.
Oh, that's legit. I feel that's totally legit.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never eaten it, but I've heard of it. Maddie, do you remember Face on Nick Jr.? He was just a big colorful face.
I know who that is.
That was his favorite sandwich, was peanut butter and banana. I never actually tried it though, but that just jogged the memory of Face used to eat those on Nick Jr. every day.
I had no
but
idea
marshmallow, Brad, because it's in everything. Whoopie pies, a Massachusetts staple. Marshmallow fluff is often used in whoopie pie. Filling is one of the ingredients. I mean, Christ, man, we're just eating marshmallows like they're going out of style. You leave a bag of marshmallows open.
Oh, I know.
And then eat them the next day. Oh, man.
Massachusetts freaks. All of them.
Yeah, they are. There's a lot of, I've known weird people. I went to college in Massachusetts. I've known some, nothing's more of a, thank God. I mean, Micah's from Western Massachusetts, so there's not even a risk of this. But any girl that spoke with a Massachusetts accent when I was in college was a complete turnoff to me. Like, it'd be like, you'd be at a party, you'd be like the most beautiful girl ever. And you'd be like, and she's like, are you a fan of the Sox? And you'd be like, bye.
Let's get in the cab.
See you later. Like, no. See you later. You know, yeah. Shout out to Matt. I love New England actually, but
well, yeah. I mean, you just switched it for a worse accent. Really, my border of Vermont accent is arguably worse than anything you'll hear out in Boston. But I'm just used to it, you know. Like, but we'd be watching Bruins games, and Brick, the like color announcer, he's like the thickest Boston accent ever. And Colin's just like,
Yeah, he's fucking bad, man.
Oh man. It's fantastic.
The Homer,
But,
I love the Homer color guy on all hockey broadcasts. You know,
Yeah.
He's very like he either played for the team or he's very native to the area. You know, and the pure announcer, like the play-by-play, has to be kind of neutral, but this guy can be like the real Homer.
yeah,
He gives
absolutely.
that. We have our own on Long Island as well. Butch.
Butch. What a
Right.
name.
Let me pivoting back to my list here.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
still-
please keep going.
That's all right. The California Raisins, Brad,
Oh,
you must
geez.
love them.
I know them.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
these
they're
are your
fun. They're
homeboys.
singing
Like
songs and shit. Yeah.
Now there are some accusations of racism here. I don't know. I just loved the
Eh.
California Raisins. I didn't.
Wait,
I
really?
didn't
People
find
think
them
that's
offensive.
racist?
I
They just play
remember.
music, right?
I remember people thinking it was a little racist that they were like a jazz band. I just remember hearing this
Why
as a
can't we
kid.
have
Like,
cool
is it
things?
racist? I know it's just raisins playing jazz.
Just wait until you get to
okay?
mine, and we'll talk about cool things we used to have.
So I love the California raisins. I stand by
Haven't had
them.
raisins in
I
a
don't
while.
think there's anything offensive about the
Yeah, they're
California
cool,
raisins.
dude.
I
They
used
look
to
like some
eat
shit
this-
from Pee-wee's Playhouse.
I used to eat the Sun-made raisins by like a handful, dude.
Oh hell yeah,
So
raisins
good.
are awesome.
So
If
good.
you
I
don't
haven't had
like
raisins in a
raisins,
while.
you gotta get some raisins, brother. I tell
know.
you what.
Yeah,
Maddie,
raisins
put
are
your,
good.
you're still a little low for some reason. Put your volume
Really?
up a little more if you can.
Right?
Post
Okay, yeah, one sec.
yourself.
I'm going to make a note. Go ahead.
Yeah, the California raisins.
Thank you.
Mr.
No
Peanut.
problem.
I only have two more.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Peanut, the most fuckable peanut you've ever seen.
Pardon me.
Mr. Peanut is elegant.
Mm,
He's classy. He's well dressed. And that man, he's trying to sell you something. And I'll tell you what, he's doing it.
yeah.
He's
Trying to give
doing
you
it
his
all right.
nuts.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Peanut is an icon. Like, I really like, out of maybe some of these things I've mentioned, yeah, maybe people don't remember, Rich Frosted. Maybe people don't think of him first, but Mr. Peanut, you
Yeah, I
can't
know
forget
Mr.
Mr.
Peanut,
Peanut. I lied. I actually have two more after this because I forgot to write one of them down. Wendell. Who remembers Chef Wendell from Cinnamon Toast Crunch? They got rid of his.
Oh.
They replaced him
Oh.
with the anthropomorphic little Cinnamon Toast Crunch
Little-
cereal guys.
Dude, I do remember this guy.
Yes, Chef Wendell.
Man.
Why did they do this to me?
'Cause
How
he's
do you
like
get
a-
rid of him?
Fucking old man, I guess. I don't know.
Now,
They're
you
like,
know,
we're appealing to kids. Nothing more appealing than
Oh.
like a 70-year-old retired man on Social Security. I don't know. They're like, here, now we'll give you a little Cinnamon Toast Crunch guy.
it's like when they got rid of Jeeves from Ask Jeeves and then
Oh, yeah,
just
that's
turned into
fucked up.
ask.com. They were like, Jeeves is going on vacation. And then it was just ask.com. Well, how well did that work for them? I wonder.
I
It
don't
did
know.
not.
Yeah,
So-
honestly, I prefer the older man to the current Cinnamon Toast Crunch brand, which is just literally a piece of the cereal with a very long tongue.
Oh, dude. I mean, it's
It's for the
equivalent
Zoomers,
to,
dude.
It's
Yeah.
like the Quiznos hamsters. Like, it was just so fucking weird. And now this is just, that's their new mascot, the little cereal.
I was in the store. I was shopping for like when my friends are coming over, and I saw they had a cereal. Cinnamon Toast Crunch is already like a really good sugary cereal. They have Cinnamon Toast Crunch loaded, and
What?
this is like it's a Cinnamon Toast Crunch like piece, but it's now filled with like vanilla icing.
No,
I'm like,
It's too
holy
much.
sh- Yeah, it's way too much, bro.
it's too much.
Unbelievable. I saw it.
it
I was like,
simple.
holy fuck.
Keep
Yeah,
it simple,
geez.
guys.
Did
No,
you
I
see
had
this
not
article I
seen that.
posted here, Micah? I don't mean to rain on your parade here with Mr. Peanut, but I guess there's a baby nut that
Oh,
was
yeah,
in
I
a Super
remember
Bowl
Baby
ad.
Nut.
He got like reborn, something like that.
Yeah, Baby Nut
It
was disturbing.
Right, because didn't Mr. Peanut like get in a car accident or
He
something?
dies, I think, or something.
Yeah, and then,
Wait,
the,
what?
and then there's Baby Nut.
Because there's
I
like
remember
there's a
all
shot of
this.
him at the funeral or whatever, like at like the grave, at like Mr. Peanut's grave or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's literally
what?
a tweet from Mr. Peanut that says, "Hello world, I'm happy to be back. I can't believe everyone came together for little old me. Hashtag baby nut."
It's like, was it like a Baby Yoda type thing? Is that what they were trying to like? Oh, you know what? People seem to like that Yoda is now small. What if we made Mr. Peanut small? And it's like, why didn't you just give him a son? I don't know.
Yeah,
Why'd you have to kill him?
little old Billy or something. Yeah, why'd you gotta kill him? It's
To
fucked up.
reincarnate him
I
as
know.
a new Peanut.
Marketing.
I don't
man.
know.
Funny stuff.
Black magic going on at Mr. Peanut. Finally, the best mascot, maybe of my lifetime, the Burger King.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah.
talking about the
Oh,
commercials where it's the guy with the
freak.
big head.
Yeah.
And I'm also talking about the Xbox 360 games, of which you had Big Bumpin', Sneak King, and Pocket Bike Racer. I have all three. Fantastic. The King, you can't have a better mascot than that. He's a little creepy. He's a little sexy. He just has this thing about him. He's just trying to give you some burgers, trying to give you a nice croissant, which, okay. I loved the Burger King. I was really mad when they got rid of those commercials and people were like, "Oh, I always hated those." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could you dislike
Yeah, I like
the Burger King
too.
commercials?
Because it looks like he may give you a burger. It looks like he may sexually assault you.
Yes.
You don't really know what's
if
going to
you're
happen
lucky, you'll
specifically.
get both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It's like ordering the fries at Burger King and you get a little onion ring in there. Like, hell yeah, dog. This is exactly what I was asking for. But the Burger King, definitely like my favorite mascot of the last 20 years or so. I can't remember how long the campaign's been going, but I adore him. And the games are fantastic. Sneak King is the best of the three. If you're on the, in the market for those on eBay, Sneak King is the one that's most worth your money. Pocket Bike Racer was okay. Big Bumpin' was terrible. That one was awful. But I digress. I want to hear from you guys about your favorite mascots. Matty, my contemporary in age. I got a couple years on you, but we're right
We're
up
close.
there, Matty.
We're close.
Tell me, son, how much you miss Wendell from Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
What I do miss is Jeffrey the giraffe. You had this in your messaging, like telling us about your topic, and that was number one on my list because Toys R Us was such an important brand growing up. I feel like I could still smell that department store to this day. I love Toys R Us so much that they have this, I think it's called like the Great American Mall in New Jersey, where they have a very small, in this big mall, part of it has a Toys R Us. It's like a little 2-floor store. I drove like 2 hours to just go see it. I actually considered going to like setting up a Canada trip, to go see the area, but also because like they had Toys R Us there and I could at least re-experience that. Cause I'm still coping with the fact that when I left Toys R Us last time, like I left with a giant Zelda statue. I'm still coping with the fact that when I left there, I didn't know like that was the last time I was going. Like I need to have some closure. So yeah, I love Toys R Us. I love that department store and just all the memories it held, so important for me growing up. And so, yeah, Jeffrey the giraffe was like getting the pamphlets in the mail for like during the holiday season and like circling the things I wanted to get from Toys R Us was like always a big deal. And seeing the giraffe there was great. Obviously, like the logo and was like iconic and just, yeah, love Jeffrey the giraffe. I wanted to shout out M&M's. M&M's, man. They got some personalities over there, right? Like each one, a lot of people really sip over the green M&M.
Oh God, yeah.
We have the kind of raunchy red M&M. We have the kind of clever, doofy yellow M&M.
The green one's the one that wears the fuck me boots, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But the brown M&M is also attractive. She wears glasses.
Yes.
And the brown M&M is also a woman.
Orange M&M is a little like scary. Blue is very cool. Like they all have their own personalities and it's so unnecessary, but it's really effective. Like I love me a good M&M. So that's always been effective. What's also been effective as a customer of this is the Geico Gecko. How could we leave out the Geico Gecko?
Oh, shit.
The most charming commercials in all of entertainment. Like this guy, like he's endured everything. Like he's been around forever and I don't think he's replaceable. Like this Gecko is everything to this brand. I think you get rid of the Gecko, you get rid of the soul of Geico. So very important one. And obviously there's 1,000,001 breakfast boxes, but I got to give it to Tony the Tiger, who was just crafting some of the most hype commercials of my childhood. Dude. I was a believer that if I threw down some Frosted Flakes, that I'd tear through my fucking day with no problem at all. So I just want to shout out Tony the Tiger for all the inspiration during those tough days in middle school and elementary school. That was very important for me. But yeah, man, Frosted Flakes, like that was a power cereal. Like when I got my hands on that, I was walking, the grass was a little greener, sky was a little bluer. And I think that's because a lot of the branding was doing its work on me. So yeah, I just want to shout out these four in particular. M&M's, Jeffrey the Giraffe, Geico Gecko, Tony the Tiger. Excellent brands, excellent mascots. Always will remember them.
Oh, absolutely. It really was. So first of all, with Geico, I loved the caveman commercials as well.
Mhm.
Like genuinely fucking loved those caveman commercials. I remember just
Yeah,
being like, there's a new one and more so in like like we weren't as much online these days. So it's like when you saw a new one and you're talking about it, generally it was like water cooler talk to say, did you see the new Geico commercial? And you couldn't just go on YouTube yet and go watch it. It was like, you gotta see it. Like, you know, and you're watching TV waiting for these fucking commercials to be on. And then, yeah, with the cereals, Matty, Tony the Tiger made you feel like you could do anything.
Yeah.
Like they really did tell us that if you ate this bowl of sugar, you could go run a marathon. And I was like, hell yeah, dog, I'll do it.
I remember,
Same with
I remember with Tony the Tiger, it's like, did he just say they're grape?
Grape.
I know, but I was like, when I was a kid, I'm like, what the fuck did he just say?
They're grape.
You know, it's kind of like when they'd be like, this show is brought to you by. I was like, did they say Brock to you by? Like when I was a kid, I'm like, what does that mean?
You just had hearing problems.
I was just retarded as a child.
Yeah.
My sister Allie dropped me on my head when I was an infant. So,
Oh shit! Well, that explains a lot.
yeah, doesn't it? Yeah.
Well, Matty, I don't know too if you remember the Olympic team Cheerios that they did one year when we were a kid. They were frosted Cheerios, but they had a special edition box for the Olympics and like special commercials for it. And that was just another one that made me think, if I fucking ate these, I'll be an Olympian. I have no training. I've never done anything athletic, but if I eat this bowl of cereal, I too could be a gymnast. I too could be a figure skater. They really had us.
I like the Michelin Man.
Cereals. The
Michelin Man
Man.
like you just want to kind of like squeeze his ass a little bit or something. Like, I don't know. He just had a plushy look to him. Just like,
he seems like a guy that would take you to a nice restaurant. All right. Take you to a movie. He wouldn't try nothing. He would just take you out to dinner. You know, a third date. You see how it goes. But the Michelin Man seemed like a respectable character.
And he's made of rubber, so you don't even need to look for protection. You know?
Yeah.
He says here on Wikipedia, I didn't know this is his name, Bibendum, commonly referred to in English as the Michelin Man or Michelin Tire Man, is the official mascot of the Michelin Tire Company. But I didn't know Bibendum or Bibendum.
Yeah, I don't know.
That
They're
apparently
German, right? Is it German?
Oh, I have no idea.
Michelin?
I'm not
Sounds
sure.
German to me.
Just uncovered a little something here.
Michelin.
Well, what's weird about the Michelin Man? He was on my list too. A few of the things you guys have said is on my list, but you're talking about Michelin Man bringing you to a restaurant. Michelin stars is the same Michelin, which is the weirdest, which is the weirdest thing to me. I don't understand. I still don't understand any of that. You know, it's like, so you have a Michelin star from the company that makes tires. Like, why do I care about this? You know,
yeah,
right.
I just learned that term last month. I didn't know. Like, it's like, oh, it's a Michelin star restaurant. I'm like, what's that? I've never heard of that.
It's way above my need and wants for a restaurant personally, but
yeah.
Mike, does it sound like something's going on in our house? What is happening right now?
I don't know. I'm gonna look at the camera and see if there's it sounds like somebody's getting their house power washed like on our street or something.
Yeah, it's like sorry, I just keep usually when I hear things in the background, I'm like, oh, that must be Micah, but I'm like, we're both here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So something's happening. What happened?
I can't. It looks like there's a truck outside the house next door to us, but I can't see what it is.
Okay. No worries. I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just like, what is going on in my house? I'm going to look.
All right. Well, Brad, why don't we pivot to you next? Tell me some of your favorite brand mascots. Tell me the ones that you find attractive.
It's so weird. Growing up as a kid in the 90s, you know, there's so many fucking mascots. Everything had a mascot. I distinctly remember the Trix Rabbit. Is he still around?
Oh,
I remember that.
I don't
that little
know.
was getting in trouble or something.
Yeah, he's around. He's definitely around. Trix Rabbit.
Yeah, Trix is still. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, this motherfucker's still hanging on.
But do you guys remember when they changed Trix from being the shapes to just being the fucking little balls? Do you remember that?
Right.
The Trix cereal used to be fruit shapes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
that's horseshit.
Now it's just fierce. It's like
Trix has a place. I like Trix. You know,
it's delicious.
It's like
the shape.
So you guys think of the cereal or the yogurt? I think of their raspberry rainbow yogurt.
I never had the yogurt. That was after my time.
The yogurt is the superior product, but the cereal was first.
Yeah,
the yogurt is actually. I haven't had it in a long time, but it was so good, man.
Yeah.
Trix yogurt
really
was.
good.
I haven't had it in
so
long
good
either. I still occasionally, judge me, will grab a Lunchable from time to time.
Nothing wrong with that.
Just for the sake of the memory.
Just get one. Yeah,
just get one. Like, I don't know if you guys got a favorite. I used to love the pizza one growing up. It's not as good as I remember, but like the little ham and cheese one. Still kind of works for me.
Yeah, still the classic, dude. It's the best for sure.
Yeah.
I remember the Lucky Charms leprechaun. Is he still around? Or are they saying he's racist now too, or some
You want
shit?
to talk about
No,
sexy? Whew.
He's still there. Lucky is still there.
Okay,
Lucky can
Charms.
get it. I would
just
fucking
Yeah, he was
stumbled
sick. I
every
remember
hole
him.
in his body. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
I wouldn't see. I wouldn't.
It's so
because
gross.
I
I'm
gotta
still
show you
angry.
guys
They got rid of the red balloon,
In
and
the-
I'm
in
still
the-
mad about that.
in the process of
they
Googling if the Lucky Charms are still around. I gotta show you guys what I stumbled upon on eBay here. Whoever wants to read it aloud can do so.
Let me
But
see.
this is a thing.
This is on. Where is it? Did you put it in the chat?
I put it in the Constellation chat.
Oh,
yeah.
in Constellation.
Ah.
In Discord. Let me see.
Yeah.
Got to open that up, and we'll go here, and we'll go here.
This is unbelievable.
A limited edition Bob Ross
Whoa.
Lucky Charms. What?
Holy shit.
What
50
is-
bucks.
What is this?
$50. It says it literally has a tag on it. On sale, $8. And someone's selling a box of cereal for $50
Wow.
Where did this come from?
with $10 shipping.
The joy of cereal. That's a sick box art, though.
They must have
Like,
made this
that's
for
a good-
PBS or something.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. That goes
Where's
hard.
the information?
And the bottom right says just eat, relax, and watch it happen.
Dude, where is the
Oh
fucking?
my god.
That's unreal.
That is insane.
Don't mind if I do.
Just eat, relax, and watch it happen, man.
By the way, these
Jesus.
people next to us, they're at the house next to us, and they're doing something to like one of the vents on the second floor. So I don't know. It's like maybe a dryer vent or something like that.
Yeah.
They're making some sort of racket out here, though. I'll tell you that. Hopefully it's not coming through.
Dude, suburban life. That's what it is.
Yep.
What are
No
they
big-
doing over there? That's suburban life.
Oh
Checking on
yeah,
your
looking out
neighbors
the
and shit.
windows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
What are
sure
they
my
fucking
neighbors
doing?
love this whole thing behind me. So,
Oh yeah. yeah.
But, but I only play in the afternoon, strictly.
Well,
Never
that's good.
mornings, never evenings.
That's very considerate.
Yeah, I
very-
play
very
probably
kind
no
of
earlier than 1, no later than like 5, something like that, 5:30.
That's good.
And I have no
Favorite-
stamina, so I can only play
Oh,
like 4
yeah.
or 5 songs. The other night I was playing before dinner, and I came down and I was like sweating, and I'm like, it's like as if I was playing the show, like the actual show. It's like, what is going on?
Favorite mascot. One of my favorites, Micah, is Toucan Sam. The
Oh, hell yeah.
Still rolling. Then they introduced his nephews or whatever, which I was all about. It's definitely an Uncle Scrooge vibe. I was all about that. But yeah, food ones. But it's weird. Like Colin Toro, the cat from PlayStation.
Sure.
How that's such like a big mascot that's only in Japan.
Yeah, it's like a Japanese Sony mascot. That's why when he was in PlayStation All Stars, they're like, no, everyone's like, fuck is this guy in there? But
Yeah,
they were doing it
it's
for
so
they
weird.
were doing it for the Japanese audience. And when you go to
Oh.
PlayStation's HQ, there are like huge things of him and stuff like that. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a weird mascot that never caught on, or they never do here. Obviously, Ronald McDonald, he's a freak and kind of a creep, but he's a legendary mascot nonetheless. I don't know. There's always something like uncomfortable about Ronald.
Oh, absolutely.
Even as
like
a kid, bro. Hell no.
the statues of him like sitting on a bench at McDonald's, like, you sit with him, and it's like, I don't think we should be putting the children next to Ronald. I don't know. There's just something. I think it's okay if mom sits next to him, but I don't know about little Jimmy.
I
Sit
heard
next to the giant purple abomination thing that'll eat you or something.
Talk about Grimace that way. He would never. All right, he would never.
I heard
He
Ronald
would
McDonald
devour
can
you.
suck a golf ball through a garden hose. That's what I heard.
Jesus. What is that from? That
I don't
sounds
know.
like
My
it's
dad's
definitely from
friend said
something.
it to me when I was a kid, and I never like. He was talking about like some girl that I was like at a dinner with my dad and his friends, and they were like, I was like in high school, and one of the guys was like, "Oh yeah, she could." They were talking about someone like she could suck a golf ball through a garden hose or something. Everyone was like,
Holy shit.
and ever since then, I was like, "That's fucking great." I have no idea what it's from.
So you just put Ronald McDonald to it.
It's funny you guys are going through. Ronald McDonald is so he's disquieting. Like do I trust him? Do I not trust him? Do I want to be with him? Like I feel like Ronald McDonald would lock you away in a basement as a slave, and I also feel like Ronald McDonald would give you the shirt off his back. I don't know which one
Yeah.
Ronald McDonald you're gonna get. I don't know, but he's got
I feel
yin
like
and yang
he's
in him. I
gotten a
can tell.
lot. I feel like he's gotten a lot of accusations, and he's out there to prove himself as a good lad.
Yeah, he's got his
Yeah.
house. The Ronald McDonald house. He's doing the best he can
helping
do.
families out. Yeah, all that stuff.
That was actually pretty. Do you guys remember that? I'm sure they did it when you guys were kids, but it was such an ingenious thing at McDonald's. The change bins that looked like houses, and then you would put your extra change in, whatever. And that was for the Ronald McDonald house. I was like, what a clever. Yeah. And you would kind of like want to fill it up and see, do all that. No one pays in cash anymore, so.
No, they don't.
Can't do that anymore.
So cool cups and shit.
I was only there for the cool like Happy Meal rewards and whatnot. So like, I remember Burger King. Was it Burger King? I remember they did like Dragon Ball 1.
They did Dragon Ball,
Power Rangers. I remember I got like all the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers. Like, like that was what was pulling me in. I had no brand loyalty. What were your toys? That was interesting me the most as a kid.
Oh, that was a huge.
And then one day I went on like a fast food tour in my like, I think after I graduated college, like in the same day I had like Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King, and I vomited. And then that was it. I just didn't have fucking fast food after that. Like I just hit my limit. That was it.
There's a stretching pup in the background. stretching pup.
Yeah, the pup is stretching back there.
What is Rufus doing? Do you see this?
Yeah.
He's literally just hanging off the.
He's doing his thing.
Rufus is like the strangest dog.
How's the place, Matty?
It's been good. It's been really good. Yeah, we're actually going to start doing our. I'm just like mildly concerned about my dog right now. I don't know what he's doing.
It probably feels good,
Yeah, he's like,
that feels
now
good.
He's getting some movement in. Now he's getting some. But yeah, it's been great. We're just all right. He's getting off the couch now. There we go.
Stretch it out, my friend.
But yeah, we're going to be painting the den soon.
Oh, okay.
Getting that all up and running in a better way. Like it's a good room. Like we have a really cozy couch and a projector there, but it like needs decorations. It needs love. And so I just had that random dash of inspiration one day where I was like so intimidated to paint the room. And then I woke up like earlier this week and I said, Laylee, pick out a paint. I think I can do this. Like just do it. Let's do this. And so that's the next step. But otherwise it's been really good.
Cool. Great. Yeah, we're going to paint our whole downstairs at some point too, because everything we've had like things like people have like had to cut open our ceiling to like add wires and like do all these different things, and it just like over the years moving everything in, it's like this, it's all white, so it's just like this place is looking a little damaged, so we gotta get a little color in here,
very 80s kind of paint aesthetic in there. Like it looks old compared to the rest of the house, so it's like it's time to give this room some real love and make it like it's the room that with a little additional care we could make it like the star of the home. So I'm determined to do that. I'm very excited about it. So within the next couple of weeks, that room will be painted.
Cool, man. Yeah, we're gonna have someone do it because I'm not. I actually used to paint a little bit when I worked grounds and landscaping. I painted like a rental house once, actually, like the whole thing. But it took like weeks, and I just did it all by myself, and that was like just what I did every day.
Yeah, I hear you.
And it's harder than it looks.
It's because like we want to like epoxy the floors in our garage or like extend our yard a little bit by knocking down a couple of trees. Like there's things we want to spend our money on that we can't do. So I was like, well, what can we do? And I'm like, let's just, we got some quotes from painters. I was like, I'm not paying that much like, I'm good. I'm not doing that. Like, so we'll do that room ourselves and pay someone else for something we can't do.
That's totally. I understand. I can't do any of it. So,
okay. I'm not artistic or like, I do not have like sleight of hand or anything like that where I'm taking the big roller and I'm hitting the big areas, and Laylee's yours. I'm like, you got to use like your hands and take the small areas over, and we'll do this together and it'll be done in a weekend. But yeah, I hear you on that because I'm recognizing my limited abilities. And so the plan is like, we're going to paint to the best of our ability. And then, come the time to like furnish it and everything, we'll probably replace the floors. Cause by that point, I imagine there'll be paint on it somewhere, even with the tape and the tarps and everything, it's still going to be fucked up. No doubt about it.
Cool, man. Yeah, I know. That sounds fun. I envy you in some sense because it's fun to customize. On the other hand, I don't envy you because there's nothing pressing happening in this house right now, which is cool. So I don't need to make any changes. But yeah, I bought this house. It was the spec house in the neighborhood, so it was as is, but it was new, so I didn't customize anything. And then I'm very comfortable here, and I think there's a chance we just never leave this house. But I also obsessively think about building another house, like doing it myself. Now that I know what it is to live in a house and have it's like, damn, dude, I wish I would have done this a little different. I would have pushed this out. I would have gotten rid of this. Why do we have this? Like we have, I've said before, like the most confounding thing in our house, and it's cool, and it's useful from time to time, but we have like a his and her shower in the master bathroom. And it's like, one of these should just be a bath, like why? Little things like that annoy me. But then if you start doing so much of that, it's like, why put so much money into something that doesn't really need the work Anyway, I'm too lazy. I'm never going to move. All right. Micah,
such
where
a
are we
pain
on
in the
this
ass.
topic?
All right. Well, Brad, was that your whole list? Was Ronald McDonald?
Oh no,
your
last
pinnacle?
one. The ultimate mascot is Mickey Mouse. 100%.
Oh, yeah.
The ultimate mascot. And no one has endeared more than him. He's fucking fighting monsters in Kingdom Hearts, dude. He's still going hard after all these years. I think he's in public domain now, though, or soon, so better watch out. People are going to get real filthy with that mouse. They already do, but even more.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that Winnie the Pooh horror movie that came out.
Yeah. Abomination.
As long as you don't have the red shirt, he's public domain. So it's like Winnie the Pooh, just if he's naked, he's fine.
I already think of Colin now when I see Winnie the Pooh, which is unfortunate because I love Winnie the Pooh so much. So thanks for that.
You're welcome. Yep. Just sleeping with no
That's all
pants
for
on.
me. Just a shirt.
Just a shirt. That's how it goes.
And your wife's got one sock on.
Yeah, you fucking
Everything's all fucked
freaks,
up.
dude. Your whole family, yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, Colin, let's hear your list. What we haven't taken already, because you said a couple of yours have already been spoken.
Oh yeah, no, it's no big deal. The Geico, we already brought this up. What is it? A lizard, a chameleon, or something?
He's a gecko.
Gecko.
It's probably the most ingenious thing in American marketing ever, I would say. And I'm glad you brought up the caveman, because we were laughing how they brought the caveman back.
Yeah.
Where he's like retired and is trying to like get away from that life. It's very funny. Like, I'm old enough, and you can see this. Mike and I watch sometimes. We just and I go to fits and spurts, so we haven't done it in a while. But I'm going to be like, I'm going to watch this entire Price is Right from 1982 with commercials, and you just sit there and you realize. And when I was a kid in the 80s and in the 90s, commercials weren't funny ever. And then at some point, they would maybe be endearing or clever. Remember like the Grey Poupon commercial, the famous Grey Poupon commercial? It's like, do you have any Grey Poupon? Oh, but of course. So like that was like where they kind of started getting more funny, but it was very serious.
Yeah.
And at some point people were like, no, like commercials should be funny. And now basically all commercials are funny. And I feel like the Gecko, the Geico Gecko is one of those things that really helped push towards this era where there's like just years long storylines. Like to appreciate the new caveman commercial, you would have literally had to have watched the caveman commercials from the late 90s, early 2000s. And I was reminded that there was even a Gecko or a Geico caveman sitcom that got canceled.
That was a fever dream, by the way.
Yeah.
Like I almost mentioned that when Matty was talking about it, and then I said, I'm not 100% sure that's real, but I remember that being a thing. And I said, I don't even know if I just made that up.
I didn't know about that. That's wild.
So Gecko, yeah, the Geico, throw that out there in the caveman. You brought that up. The Burger King is funny too. And again, that was when commercials started getting surreal. So I think that began with, in some ways, like the Quiznos commercials began that surrealism. And I think that the King commercials kind of leaned into that. I have these are only, again, I only know contemporary commercials really because of football and hockey. So the Progressive commercials I think are really funny. I know some people really hate that character Flo or whatever.
Yeah.
But I actually think it's really funny. They have like a whole universe of characters. And I love that character Jamie, who's like the dumb male one or whatever. I think those are pretty funny. Michelin Man I had on here because Michelin Man is ancient. That's a really, 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 really old mascot. Maybe more than 100 years at this point.
Really?
Mr. Peanut had on there as well. Classic. Ronald McDonald I had on there as well. I have 3 that didn't come up though. And then I have 3 more that I wanted to bring up in its own way. I was originally going to answer this as being like my favorites were Aunt Jemima. Oh, she's not around anymore. Uncle Ben. Oh, and the Land O'Lakes Indian. Bring back the Land O'Lakes Indian. All right. My others are, by the way, that is so fucking stupid that they got rid of all 3 of those mascots or characters. Like, it's so fucking stupid that they did that. It's like Aunt Jemima was a powerful character in American commerce, you know? And Uncle Ben. I mean, what is...
Yeah,
he's an old black man selling you rice. What is racist about that?
Spider-Man's uncle. I mean, that would have been funny.
My head was like in Spider-Man land for a moment.
It actually would have been hysterical if they replaced
Tobey Maguire
him.
crying face on like the back of the box for like the nutrition bags.
Just swap out black Uncle Ben for white Spider-Man Uncle Ben. There you go.
Laying there,
You fixed the brand.
dying on the floor. Yeah. It's the box picture.
All right, so here are the three that didn't come up. Mr. Clean.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Clean is like if I was a gay man and I was looking for a bear. That would be my guy. Love the earring. Love the bald, shorn head.
He has an earring? I didn't actually know.
Yeah, he's got an earring.
Yeah, he has one. Yeah. He's maybe a little too clean. Something going on with that guy.
Well, a lot of gay men are clean.
Not that he's just gay. Something a little more sinister, probably.
Oh, I see.
I don't know.
Swapping
He's got
the poop
something.
deck.
He's hiding something.
All right. And then these two are more out there, but I wanted to bring these up. My favorite marketing, and this has come up in some context on some show recently. My favorite like contemporary marketing, and this is still contemporary, but it's old too, is the Chick-fil-A cows. I just love that. And I love that whole mantra that they are basically just amped that they haven't been killed to be eaten, and that they're like trying to encourage you to just continue to eat as much chicken as possible. I think that that's really funny and very, very clever. And I love those billboards where you just see them every once, like eat more chicken or whatever, with like a little speech bubble. I like that. And then I had to give the shout out to this one. This is not an obscure brand by any stretch of the imagination, but you guys definitely wouldn't have thought of this. And it's the Morton Salt Girl. I love that image. She's got the umbrella over her, and the salt is like coming out of a bin that she's holding as she's walking.
I hated it.
Oh, I love it.
I hated that.
That's
She's
like a very old. That's
salt.
very old iconography, and I think it's cool that that's still their logo. So that's like a kind of a more obscure one I wanted to bring up that I really I love that branding. And I love that you can sell something like salt for 50 cents for one of those cylinders or 60, 70 cents and you just make a shit ton of money. Like somehow it's like, okay, yeah, everything we sell is basically worthless, but somehow we're huge. And here's our little girl mascot. So shout out to Morton Salt. I want to give them a shout out as well. So that's basically it. Bring back Aunt Jemima. Please.
It's too late. They already switched it to Pearl Milling Company. It's too late because it's not like they just got rid of the picture. It's like, no, they changed the name. Like Land O'Lakes just left the O empty. They just removed the woman from the packaging, but they're like, yeah, we're still Land O'Lakes. But Aunt Jemima just doesn't exist anymore. Now it's Pearl Milling Company. It's too much to go back. I don't think. And Mrs. Butterworth now, she's like the only syrup lady left.
Yeah, you left the white woman. Now the white woman
Mrs.
dominates.
Butterworth wasn't white.
Miss Butterworth.
Was she white?
I think Miss Butterworth's white.
That body didn't. You look at that bottle.
I always envisioned her as like an Edwardian like child's maid, with like a big bustle.
No, I pictured her as just a big fat-assed black woman, but maybe I was wrong. The rap songs, whenever they mentioned Mrs. Butterworth, I didn't think that's what they were talking about.
Miss Butterworth, black. She's African American in their earliest advertising, but they've since ignored it and portrayed her as ethnically neutral.
Damn, dude.
Let me take a look at Miss Butterworth. Yeah, like I don't see her. Like she doesn't read as black to me.
But they said they used to be black, so maybe they made her a little more, they changed the bottle over the years, perhaps, to be like, it's just a robust woman. That's it. That's all it is.
What's the stereotype you think these are? Oh, mammies, right? Is that the name? Like the
Oh, yeah. Well, like Aunt Jemima. Yeah, that was the whole thing. Yeah.
All right. Are you satisfied?
Yeah. No, some of these were nostalgic. Some of these were just weird. I liked the mix of all of them.
Some of them were racist.
I wasn't going to say that. But this was indeed fun. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, bring back Wendell. We miss him very much. That's my only plea.
Okay. Now we have 2 topics left. And I feel like, let me see here. Brad, let's go to you first, and then I'll go last, since mine is a little off the deep end. Okay, go ahead.
My topic this week is just the all-American road trip Definitely something we've all done in our lives. I assume most of us here. And I mean, it's something probably in the world everyone does, of course, but like they go to different countries a lot of times because they're so close, like in Europe. But for us, got to the States growing up, going to different states for holidays and stuff like that. I just kind of want to get you guys' experiences there. I'll just talk about some of mine earlier on. I used to go to Vegas every year. My grandparents lived there. So I'd drive from Orange County to Vegas, which thankfully wasn't too far of a drive. It's probably like 5 hours from when I was a kid or something like that. But definitely remember, sitting in the back of the car with my Game Boy, trying to see the screen or something that. Had my portable CD player playing, yes. I don't know, probably like the Offspring or some dumb shit in there like that.
Ixnay on the Hombre, is that what you were listening to? Smash?
It's probably Smash, yeah. At that time, I think so. I don't think like some of the other ones, like Americana, I don't think that was out yet or anything like that.
Yeah, Americana's 99, I want to say 98, 99.
Yeah. But just like where you've been, some of your road trips, like I took many road trips up to San Francisco when I had a friend that lived up there. And, it's like a 7-hour drive, I would say, from where I'm at, San Francisco. So many of those, I thankfully didn't have to do road trips where it was multi-day trips. So I know a lot of kids were forced to do that, go from states that are very far away. So I was just kind of curious, like, what are some of your guys' road trip memories? Anything funny that happened on them? Anything sketchy that happened on, like, for one instance, I was with my friend going to San Francisco, just two of us, and his truck broke down. We had to hitchhike in the middle of the night. Wow. And it was very bizarre, but the guy that picked us up was actually really cool, but it's just a very weird experience, I remember. So, Matty, I want to talk to you about, so I know about maybe this was a road trip where you almost pooped your pants. That was a legendary
No, that was
story.
just like 5 minutes from my house. Yeah. Unfortunately, I was like dangerously close to my house.
Very well.
But actually,
it's even funnier.
I hate that you set it up this way because I when you were talking, you said something bad that happened. I immediately thought of a story where I pissed myself as a kid. And I was like, I'll tell that story. I'm like, dude, I'm going to get a bad rep on this show so quickly. But it's totally worth telling because, man, I blame my mom and dad for this mostly. But anyway, this really isn't a road trip experience. It's more like when we were on, like reached the destination. Does that still count?
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
I'm too deep now.
Related to road trips.
Yeah, I'm too deep now. We went to Virginia Beach for a family vacation. We like scarcely went this far. Like this is the furthest we had gone because normally we'll go to like Lake George or something like that, which is like one of my favorite places on the planet. Great mini golf courses there, by the way. Yeah, we wouldn't go super far. So we went to Virginia Beach, and I distinctly remember we were like, mini golf is like a big thing in my family. Any place we go, we like look up the local mini golf places. And so we were there on the course, and I mean, it's really not even a long story. It's just, I remember being there, and I had to be, this time I was within an age limit. It's excusable. I had to be 5 tops.
Oh, yeah.
And I was pleading my case to my mom, but she was having a game. And my mom's great mom. Like she's usually like on top of things, but I think she was just locked into some mini golf. I was like, Mom, I gotta go to the bathroom. No dice. No one takes me to the bathroom. And so like hole 7, I can't hold it. And I'll always remember, it's burnt into my head. When I start to just release, there's a couple, maybe 7 steps from me. And I'm just frozen there, pissing myself, right? And this couple is like holding each other like, oh no, like just staring at me as I go. And I'll always remember that. I still kill my mom about it. I was like, I'm now a household story. Remember that kid pissed himself in Virginia Beach? That's me.
Totally.
That's me.
Yeah.
I was like, you did that to me, Mom.
Love that.
So I blame her for that. But yeah, that's like one story that immediately came to mind when you brought up embarrassing ones. Lake George, though, like I was staying on mini golf. They have great mini golf courses there. Like Around the World is one where each hole is themed around like an iconic location throughout the globe. And it's like a good challenging mini golf course. They have another version of it called Around the USA where they're all like USA based holes. And like, it's sick. Like it's worth just going there for that. I still have yet to see a golf or a mini golf course better than that. They have Pirates Cove, which is all based around like pirate stuff. They have like waterfalls in the holes and whatnot. Like it's really cool, man. So Lake George also has like all these really cool knick-knack shops, like the Tom Tom shop. So like going there was always like a highlight as a kid. And last time I was there was actually 2020 during the pandemic. It was like one of the first things I did outside of my house during that year, where I was like, all right, fuck it. Like I want to go. And so, yeah, that place was awesome. I always remember going there. That's definitely a favorite of mine.
Sick. I want to bring up one I just remembered is when I was older going to Vegas with my friends, we're in our 20s and shit. And on the way to Vegas, there's this place called like State Line or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's like a very crazy, huge, of course, casino, but it's very like outdoor theming inside of it. And they have a huge roller coaster on it. And that it's like at the time it was like one of the tallest, I think, in the state or something like that. But I distinctly remember my friend puking on it during the ride. So that was awesome. And also going to Vegas and on the way home, my friend just puking all over outside my car. Thankfully, not in the car.
I've been there on the opposite end where it's in your car.
I was just like, oh, thank God. But, we were like fucking 23. So what do you expect? We were in the prime of that. Colin, did you ever take a Vegas trip when you were in SF?
Yeah, I went to Vegas a lot when I was in San Francisco. Okay. Yeah, we would fly. But I've been to Vegas probably further. 15 times, something like that.
Yeah.
And I love Vegas, but getting there from LA is a little easier.
And way easier.
It's funny what you're talking about the borders of Nevada, though. It's so funny when you're in Tahoe and you can walk from parts of Tahoe into Nevada, and then there's just casinos like right on the border.
Yeah,
and like Aharas and all that kind of stuff. Like, this is so fucking crazy.
Casinos everywhere when you enter Nevada. It's crazy.
And brothels are not too hard to find either once you cross the border.
Oh yeah. Now it is, yeah.
But I think actually like the brothel situation is like collapsing, as I understand, pretty badly. I think it's easier to find people now online,
Yeah, that's probably
do
true.
It more discreetly, I guess. Yeah.
Matty, any other stories besides pissing your pants?
You pants?
Yeah, I know, right, man? I got all these like bodily fouls on this show. I gotta come up with a really cool one.
Come on, pee pants.
I loved, for me, one of my favorite cities is Boston. I mean, it's for PAX, but like I go to PAX every year, and like that's one that I remember pretty well. And I just like Boston's the best city that I've ever been to. Like, especially I just went to New York City last weekend, and that place has gotten so bad. I'm pretty sure we walked into a subway station. Not only does it smell way worse than it ever has, but I'm pretty sure they failed to paint over where someone got like publicly executed because there was just like a blood splatter on the wall. I was like, and it was like my friends came from Florida to see the city for the first time. I was like, the New York experience. Here you are. Yeah, welcome.
Urban living these days, I'm sorry, but it's just decrepit. Like I feel bad for people that have to live in cities now because it doesn't look good anymore. Like not even a little bit. And it sucks. I know a lot of people have to be there for work, or that's the nature of where you want to live or all of that. But man, I encourage people to get out of the cities. I really do.
Yeah. It's so bad. Like it's not exaggerating because I haven't been there in a decent amount of time. But yeah, going back there, I was like, holy shit, this place went downhill. But going to Boston was always great because good food, really safe city. I love how you can just get around there. Like it's like driving New York City is like an anxiety inducing experience as someone has done it before. It's just fucking terrible. Like Boston, it's like I can get around in my car, no problem. Like it's got a small town feel, even though it's a city. So that's what I really love. I don't know if this is a count because I took a plane. It kind of sounds like you're talking about like a road trip, but I went to Texas, and that is, I'm obviously home to some incredible food. We went there for QuakeCon, but got to explore a little bit of the surrounding area of like Dallas and whatnot. And that was really nice. Like I enjoyed that a lot. We went to a museum. We went to like where JFK was assassinated. Like they had a whole historical site there. Like a lot of rich history in the city. They also had, or this is in New York City. So I'll just jump to that real quick. They have this spy museum in New York City. I recommend people, if you ever want to, venture out into New York City and risk it all, they have this really sick spy museum that's like just all about espionage and like stings that have been done that we never knew about, and like they have all the equipment they use there and stuff. It's really cool. So yeah, honestly, I'm like growing up when I had the ability to travel more, all I really cared about was playing video games. And now that I have the means to travel, I'm so busy I don't travel. So I am like an awful traveler. And in my head, I've always made peace with like, yeah, once I'm like, a little more settled down with like, I'm really spread thin now. Once I'm a little more settled down, it's easier for me to travel. But I've been trying to make it a priority at least like once a year going to do something. I'm really looking forward to our San Diego show because it's like, oh, sweet. Like I've never been to this part of Cali before. And I've heard this is the nice part of Cali, which is really
San
exciting.
Diego's exceptional, unless something's really changed,
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I mean, I'm excited either way, but yeah, like I'm really pumped because like, last time I went was Santa Monica, and I thought that was really nice. Like I like Santa Monica a lot.
Oh, is that when you were on our show, or is that after?
Yeah, when we did Fireside Chat. Yeah, I think that was when
we met in person.
Yeah, that was when I was there for an Outer Worlds preview event. So
right, so 2019 maybe, something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about, right? That's amazing, by the way, that you did that show and just welcome people into your apartment like you had never met before.
I stopped doing it because there's two amazing things about Fireside Chats. One is that I did that. And the second is that only one person ever didn't show up, which is crazy.
Whoa.
And like just ghosted me. But which is fine. I was actually kind of relieved when that would happen sometimes because I'd often record like 3 or 4 in a day and I'd be like, all right, I'm just going to go fucking dick off at the beach or something like that. But not literally dick off at the beach. I mean, Jesus Christ. But yeah, I did. But then something happened where I was like, I'm not. Oh yeah, it was like kind of the way I was being treated by certain people online and stuff. And I'm like, I feel like this is a little crazy, maybe. Yeah. And I became too self-aware of it, and then I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So. Yeah. But I actually really enjoyed doing that show. The entire idea was for it to be like a Joe Rogan experience for just random people, and like instead of having famous people on, it would be like random people doing random things, and I really loved doing that show. But
it was an awesome show. I loved listening to it personally.
Thanks. But yeah, I don't feel like people are like, oh, you can do it remotely, and I'm like, not really. You need to know people and like get a rhythm with them. And even with Brad, I had to get a rhythm going with him. We don't have enough time online to get that rhythm going before it's like the hour or 90 minutes is up, and I'm never going to see you again probably, and it's over. But it's funny how I was introduced to certain people through Fireside Chats that I remain friendly with, like Dustin and Ben were Fireside Chats people, and as a good example. So maybe shows a little bit of my own laziness as well and complacency that people come into my life and then I'm like, all right, yeah, sure, that's great. And it all works out. But I think that speaks to the quality of those people as well.
What does that say about me that you met your wife on a podcast? It's like, wait, I'll just keep this one. All right.
We'll keep this one. It's fine. But you're but I've never met a woman on a podcast before, so that's new.
Oh, yeah. Wait, you guys met on a podcast?
Yeah, she
I
did
was
Sacred
a
Symbols
guest
with me.
on Sacred Plus for one episode.
Whoa, cool.
And then we just never stopped talking after that.
Micah with the ultimate riz.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Through the mic.
Micah was, I don't want to say persistent because that has like a negative tone to it, which is really not, but she like kept the lines of communication open. If it wasn't, I'm like memes, and we became friends, but I'm like very quiet. Like when I do things professionally with people, I try to leave them alone personally, unless I become close with them, like the people I do these shows with or whatever. And so when I have like a one-off guest, I'm not going to like bother them again. It's like, thank you for your time. So that was like a butterfly effect that she kept going, which I'm obviously grateful for. We're like two peas in a pod. We say we share one brain cell. So, which is true. We're just very similar. We're like the male and female versions of each other in some strange sense, I think. But yeah, but it was all about a podcast over like the Black experience in video games and stuff around the George Floyd riots and the death of George Floyd and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was during that era. And then that was what, spring to I was still living at my mom's waiting for the house to be done. And
that's gotta be crazy. Like Micah, when you sent that message, you had no idea you'd be marrying this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I mean, totally out of left field. And it was of like, yeah, after the show, I would just send Colin a meme every now and then because I was just like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm sending him pictures of like a tortilla on like a toilet paper roll, stuff like that. He hated it, but it worked. It somehow worked.
Got him. Yeah. Gotcha.
That's unbelievable.
Micah, tell me about some of your road trip experiences.
Yeah, we used to take a road trip like every year when I was a kid from Mass to Norfolk, Virginia to visit my mom's family. And we had good times, but man, we weren't the most prepared family. One year we forgot all our clothes. So like my mom, sister, and I shared this big luggage, and my dad had his own luggage. He packed his own stuff. We get all the way to Virginia and realize we didn't have our clothes. My dad had his, and my mom, sister, and I had no clothes. We had to go to a 24-hour Walmart and just buy like underwears, dresses, socks, just stuff to wear for that 5 days that we were going to be there. We get back home to Mass, and there's the luggage just sitting at the bottom of the stairs. Like it was the last thing to be loaded into the car. We used to leave wicked early too. That's the thing. Like we'd be rolling out of the house at 3 a.m. Because it's about an 8-9 hour drive. So we would be leaving really early. It's dark. But that was we still bring it up as very comical memory of the time we forgot all of our stuff. We also, though, I just loved stopping at like random places along the way. My mom, at the time, it was a lot harder to get some regional foods back then. So like when we'd go to Virginia, she would load up on these specific like windmill shaped cookies that she really loved. She couldn't find them anywhere else.
I think I know those. Yeah.
Yeah, and also there were these pickles. Specifically, it was Mount Olive sour pickles that you couldn't get them up north back then. Later on, you could order them online, but these specific sour pickles she could only get when we'd visit Virginia. And so she would like load up the car with those and bring them back north, and we'd have them for however many months, we lasted through those. But it was always a fun trip. I remember, though, just some real mishaps because this is the days before GPS. So, like, there was one time I don't remember why, we were in New Jersey for some reason, and we kept getting turned around by all these U-turns and these one-way streets. And I remember at one point my dad, like my mom's holding the paper map and she's like, we're at a one-way street again. He's like, they got us again. And he's like, and my sister and I are in the back seat, like, just stay quiet. Like, it's like the T-Rex moment of like, if you don't move, they can't see you, because it's like, oh man, we are fucked right now. We are lost. All we have is this paper map. The MapQuest directions are long since gone. Like, that didn't help us at all. And it's so much easier now. Like, I have done like solo road trips from Mass to Virginia. I would never have attempted that in the early days of paper maps and MapQuest. But now it is just 10 times easier to go anywhere you want and just not have to worry about this, not have to worry about your directions being outdated or wrong. But I also just remember, too, the various vehicles that we'd take. My grandparents had this sweet, like, red van. It was a huge red van, and it had the VCR. It was the VCR back then, because I'm remembering it was our Anastasia VHS tape that we played in it one time on. It must have been a trip to the beach or something that they took my sister and I on. And it was the only time I'd been in a car that had the little TV screens in it. And we were just like, this is fucking fancy living right now. We're watching Anastasia on a road trip. My sister got scared of the scene on the train where all the bats come out or whatever. My mom turned it off. I was upset because I wanted to see the rest of the movie. But those are just some of the key memories I have of like road trips, between my mom like loading up the car with her favorite foods for our way home, forgetting our luggage because we're just like a scatterbrained bunch of people, and just my grandparents with that sweet ass van. We were probably going to this place called Fort Pond that we used to take little like weekend trips to. My grandpa's cousin like had a what do you call, like a little like lake house up there that we would spend time at. I always remember going there and catching as many snails as possible in a bucket and then trying to take them home. My mom convincing me we shouldn't take 100 snails home. You have to putting them back. But it was, those road trips back in the day, the chaos of the directions is what stands out the most to me. The fear of what if we really don't get home? Of course that wouldn't happen. But as a kid, when you're watching your parents fumble with these paper maps, you really are thinking, we might just live in New Jersey now. Like, we can't get back to Massachusetts. It's hopeless. We're never going to get home. We're stuck here now. We're going to have to find a new house. Our pets are going to die. We're just going to have to start new lives here. It was really it felt at the time so scary to be in those situations as a kid. Like, you can do nothing. You don't have a smartphone to help Google directions. There's just like, you're just sitting back there hoping your parents figure this shit out. But yeah, we did, like, when I was a kid, we went on a trip to California. My uncle at the time lived in Anaheim, and we did a drive to Las Vegas, and like we stopped in the desert, which was cool. I got some pictures with some big fucking rock or something in the desert. I don't know. They told me, oh, it's going to be really cool. We're going to go to the desert. And it was a desert. It's exactly what the pictures show. This is where travel starts to elude me as an adult, because I really do say, you can just see a picture of it. Like the Eiffel Tower, do I need to go to Paris and see it? Do I really need to go to Paris and see it? Or can I just Google it, right? This is where some of my limits start to kick in, because as a kid, we had some of these like just boring ass vacations. And I'm like, we could have just Googled that. You know, like getting to Vegas was cool. The desert sucked. There was just nothing there but tumbleweeds and sand, you know? So it kind of reinforced some of my anti-travel habits that I have as an adult. But yeah, road trips, fond memories. When I do road trips myself, though, like just a solo drive from like Mass to Virginia, I just do it as quickly as possible. So I can usually get from Mass to the Jersey Turnpike in about 4 hours. And then I'll stop once to get food and go to the bathroom. And then I can get from Jersey to Virginia in about another 4 hours. And like, I'm just doing the trip that way. There's no fun. There's no stopping to see the world's largest yarn ball. Yeah. You know,
you're speed running it.
Exactly. Because there probably is cool stuff along the way. You probably could go see the world's largest cheese wheel or whatever. But I am just, when it comes to road trips, like efficiency is king. Like, I don't really want to do a multi-day trip because we stopped so many times. I just want to get there and back.
Yeah, usually, especially if you're solo. Yeah, you just want to get there. You just want to get the hell out.
I always do look forward to it, though. Every time I'd go like on these trips, I'd get a like pretzel, like a big soft pretzel, like whatever they had on the Jersey Turnpike, whether it was like Aunt Annie's or the pretzel maker or whatever. I'd always stop, get a soft pretzel. That would usually be my meal for the day, and then get back on the road. That's always a highlight of the trip for sure.
Nice.
Dude,
sounds like a healthy
Jersey
meal.
Shore is like one of the last vestiges of Roy Rogers too. You know, I would definitely be keeping an eye out for that. The Jersey Turnpike's so organized, you know, and there's like 2 exits on it. Like there's like no exits. It's just
the best road stops ever. Like the Jersey Turnpike has some of the best like road stops. Really clean bathrooms, number one, and just a nice variety. You have everything. You got your Starbucks, you got McDonald's, Burger King, you got your pretzel makers. Like there's plenty of it. I've never been into one of those and been like, oh, this place is so mobbed, I don't want to wait in line. But conversely, you haven't been to one where it's like a ghost town and it's dirty because like there's not enough customers. It really is like one of the greatest places in America, I feel, the Jersey Turnpike. Because she's an easy drive as well. Real easy drive. Plenty of places to stop, get a bite, go to the bathroom. They are very clear when you're at the last one as well. They'll be like, this is the last rest area. Like, don't fuck this up. They have like so many signs warning you that it's the last one. The Jersey Turnpike's excellent.
Damn, dude. Hyping up the Jersey Turnpike. That's sick. Like, what's so special about a turnpike? But I guess
it's awesome.
Well, because there's some places that have really organized rest area situations and places that really don't. Like, I actually think California is one of the places that doesn't. Massachusetts is one of the places that does. The Massachusetts Turnpike is really good with rest areas too. Long Island has no rest areas. That's like not a thing. You know, on like the Long Island Expressway and all that kind of stuff. You like get off at the various exits to do so. It all just depends. But yeah, Jersey's kind of that nice situation too, because you can't pump your own gas there. So you just roll into these gas bays and very quickly get your gas and go. Yeah. Very good.
Cool. Colin, road trip stories from you. Anything?
Yeah. So it's important to note the audience knows this inherently, but I don't drive. So
right.
I have a fear of driving, but I've been on many road trips, most of them before I could even drive. So it doesn't really matter. But when my parents got divorced and decided to ruin my childhood, my mom moved to New England and my dad stayed on Long Island, as everyone knows. And so I was driving back and forth with my parents like all the time. I must have driven with one of my parents or someone else between Boston or Maine or New Hampshire and Long Island literally 100 times. Like no joke. Like so many fucking times. And even in college, like my family owns a beach house in New Jersey, so we would go from Boston to Jersey often. Most of my family was on Long Island growing up, so we were always there coming from New England. I used to play travel hockey as well, so we would travel like really long distances to play in Vermont and upstate New York, in upstate Maine, upstate New Hampshire, Laconia, and all that kind of stuff, going to Canada. So there's a lot of that. But I do want to, so that's like that's not really road trips. That's just being in the car for a really long period of time because I have to be, because my parents are fucking annoying. Right. So, but as I got older, there are two that stick out to me. One is my first E3 was 2004. And I was an intern at IGN that summer. And I flew from Boston. It was after my freshman year, I guess, of college, Boston to San Jose and on JetBlue. And then the guys, it was Chris Carl, Juan Castro, a few other guys. Juan Castro is like one of the big shots at Apple Gaming now, a few others. And they picked me up at San Jose and we drove down to LA from the Bay Area. And that was really memorable just in being like how big California is. It goes without saying, and people say this all the time, like Americans don't travel and blah, blah, blah. And then people take a map of Europe and they put a map of the United States over it. And they're like, this is how easy it is to go to another country where you're from. And this is how impossible it is for us to get to other countries where we're from. And I feel really lucky that I've been overseas, I guess 5 different times, like over one of the oceans. And that's a lot more than most Americans do. But that's because there's no real need unless you want to. And I didn't really, frankly, want to go on these trips. I had to for work. So seeing the United States by car is like kind of our version of a Euro trip, as it were. And I really took that in as a young college student driving down to LA. I was like, wow, this is such an expansive state. You go through the orange orchard or the orange tree farms and the almond farms, the avocado farms. There's just so much shit in between. You know, it's cool. And the other one, though, is funny. And I think Ramon and I regaled people about this story at some point on one of the shows, but Ramon and I are huge 311 fans. 311 comes up on the show all the time, right? Obviously. It's like my favorite band. And we met in college because we lived in the same dorm on the same floor, and he was playing like a 311 song on his guitar. And I came into the door. I was like, who are you? Like, who are you?
Yeah.
and we've been best friends really ever since. And so that year we met, it was the spring of 2004. 311 does a thing called 311 Day on even years, where it's March 11th and it's a huge show in somewhere random in the country and it's often in like Vegas, somewhere in the South, wherever. And they'll play for like 5 hours.
Wow.
And they have many albums, so they'll play like a lot of their rarities and stuff. You don't really know what you're going to hear. These are for 311 fans. These are truly iconic shows, and they're shows unlike a lot of bands don't do. Like a lot of bands just never play a lot of their more obscure stuff, and they'll play like B-sides and unreleased songs and all that kind of stuff. It's super cool if you're into it. So we decided to go to that year. It was in New Orleans, and this was the year. It was right before Katrina, I guess. So I went to New Orleans only once, but it was before Katrina, and we flew down there. And along the way, we met what we call Shadow Ramon and Colin, who are these guys named Jay and Gus. And they were from like the suburbs of Massachusetts, and they were in the airport, and they had like 311 shirts on or something. And these are the guys I told you, I've told the audience before, we flew down and realized that they had an ounce of weed on them that they literally just flew with and like no problem at all. And I still think about that to this day. I'm like, I cannot even believe that.
That's wild.
And so we get down to New Orleans, we meet these guys, we become really fast friends with them. And they basically they're just going down like by the seat of their pants. They have nowhere to stay. We had like a place in Days Inn, so we let them stay with us. And we were happy to do it because like they basically helped us pay for the hotel room and all that kind of stuff. So it was convenient. And we smoked the room out and all that kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun. And so we ended up flying back, and we stayed in touch with these guys. And I specifically became very close with them. Ramon too, but I used to go out, like see them and all of that. And we were like, we're going to do this again. And so 2 years later, We're still friends with Jay and Gus, Shadow, Colin, and Ramon. And the 311 day this time's in Memphis. And so this time we're like, let's drive. And so that was like the legendary road trip for me. It took 30 hours to get there.
Damn.
God.
Memphis is in the far, Tennessee is a very long state, and Memphis is in the very, very far edge of it. So like once you get into Tennessee, you're like, yeah, we're almost there. And it's like, no, you have like 5 hours to go or whatever it is, and it's just a very memorable road trip for a lot of different reasons. Ate at a lot of random places we didn't have access to, like Waffle House, Chick-fil-A, Sonic, all those places I remember. And we had all just turned 21 as well. So it was like a real party when we got there as well. But what I remember so fondly about it as being, a longtime 311-esque pothead is we had so much weed with us that like if we got, and it wasn't to distribute, but we had like 3 ounces of weed with us, I think, which is like, if we got caught with that, they would have been like, what do you guys, you're going to get arrested for intention to sell. And we would have to convince them like, no, we're going to smoke that. Like, and I remember the car basically just being totally fucking smoked out all the time. It was crazy. And what I really think about that particular moment, and I remember actually being dropped off back at Northeastern. I remember very well because I got out of the car and I was like walking back to my apartment and I was like, that was like really like an iconic time. That was so fun. And it went totally fine. Like nothing bad happened. We had a great experience, no accidents, no problems with random people, had a nice time in Memphis, got drunk, went to the show. And I think back at those experiences and I wonder like who that is. As like a 39, I'm going to turn 40 in October, which is unbelievable to me. It makes me feel like Dagan turned 50 and that was a really eye-opening thing to me too. And I'm like, wow, that's like a totally different person. Risk averse, adult Colin. Like I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together at that point in my life. I had no cares in the world. For some reason, I was just like, yeah, let's smoke. Let's fucking go see 311. And I'm just leaving. By the way, this was in the middle of like a semester of college as well. That's an important point. Is like, I just left for like, a week in the middle of classes to do this. And I look at that and I'm like, I'm so glad I did those things. And I had such a good time and those guys are so great. I don't talk to Gus so much anymore. Once in a while we have like a group chat, all 4 of us, but with, oh, that's fine. Yeah. Matty's going to just go shut his door, but Jay, I still keep in touch with, and Jay, I actually saw 311 with like in 2019 or something in LA. So that was funny. So we're like still friends to this day, but I long to like not only know that Colin again, but to talk to him. And you don't want to change anything or butterfly effect anything. I'm not just saying that. It's like, damn, that's a totally different person. Yeah. That's like a totally not aware of anything, Colin. And what a privilege it would be as a 40-year-old Colin to talk to that Colin and just get a taste of what the fuck was going on with that person. Because and maybe garner a little bit of his spirit,
Yeah.
I watch some of my old videos at times just to see, like, because I can actually literally connect with that old version of myself. Because my videos go all the way back to when I was like 16, 15, bro. And I was a loose fucking cannon. I'm like way more up to like there's fucking videos of me saying shit. I'm like, oh my God. I recommend people check out my Toy Story 3 Let's Play if they want to know. Yeah, I just fucking fire off, dude. Like I think part of it's like growing up, right? Like you're shaped by your experiences around you. Not that you were immature, but like I think we were all like mega carefree in our like late teens, early to mid 20s. And then, you start to buckle down a little bit. And so I think it's normal, Yeah, it's good. It's good that you can like realize that, because I think there's ways you can kind of go back and understand that version of yourself and take the good parts out of it and leave the irresponsible ones, it seems like, in the past. So, there's that too.
It's you're right. There are people I know now that I wish could know that Colin, not because they want to be like, I was a fun person and a decent person and a kind person. I don't think I've really changed that much, but just a different edge to Colin. I would love like Micah to know that Colin, just for.
Do you think you're just more relaxed, more carefree?
Yeah, I definitely was, dude. I mean, I've said in recent episodes that as I've gotten older, and I think you guys will go through this, and Brad, you're probably the closest to this if you're not already in the same space, is like, I've started in recent years to understand exactly why I am how I am. And like where I come from and the formative experiences in my life that have made me, like, any aspect of me, I could explain to you in great detail where I think it comes from. And I wasn't even aware enough at 21, and I don't think a 21-year-old ever are, to even know to ask that question. So I was not weighted down with like anything except for what was like immediately in front of me. Do I have enough money to like eat? Am I doing okay in school? And do I have a job and all that kind of stuff? Like, I was like just worried about the next day, basically, like I just didn't care. And it wasn't for lack of any like intellect. It was for a lack of, I just didn't know that I was supposed to care. I've said many times, I said this to my nephew, Declan, who's going away to college. And I was talking like how much money, I gave him a nice amount of money for graduating high school. And a lot of people, had a party and all that. I never had anything like that. And it's just a different time, a different place. But I'm like, do you have any idea that you have more money right now than I had until I was mid-20s, probably, something like that? Like how ahead of the game you are? I literally would run out of money when I worked at IGN in the beginning. Like I would be like, I have no money. None. $0. Have to make this work until whatever I get paid again. And I think that's so impressive. But when I was 21 in Colin at Northeastern, I had maybe a few $100s in the bank. And I don't know. It's crazy that I existed like that. Because it totally anathema to everything that I've since become over these last 18 years or whatever it's been. And it's been 18 years and change since that day, since that road trip. So that's the one that's
crazy.
Yeah, it was like a trip back to different parts of my life. It's weird. Like ever since my birthday, it's like I've entered this new level of consciousness where like certain games I'll look at, like I have right next to me. It's funny. I've been going on this like Lego video game kick lately. I have Lego Batman 2 next to me. And I'm like, I remember like where I was when I found out that game was open world and like how authentically excited I was. And like, a lot of these games have served nowadays as like vehicles to like different states of mind and like where I was at that point in my life. I don't know if you guys get that, but like that's been a lot lately where I'm like, man, I remember where I was when I picked this up, what I was doing, like what I had to eat that day. Like it's a weird vehicle for memories to me. And I don't know if you have something like that, Colin, because I know you talk about reconnecting with your older self, and there's been something about it for me these last a little bit over a month where when I play these old games, I feel a stronger connection to that younger version of myself. And I almost feel myself loosening up in real time where I'm not like as uptight. Not that you are, by the way, but I'm saying like,
oh my God, I'm very uptight sometimes.
No, you're chill as fuck, bro. But I don't know if you have something like that, not to like give unsolicited advice, but that's been something that's been really helping me out and like connecting with my younger version of myself and kind of like understanding the best parts of that, because I was a fucking, like, I think I'm a really nice guy. I was a fucking selfish dick for a lot. Like my mom and my family and my friends would argue otherwise, but I really think I was very like self-serving in my like teenage years for sure. I
think all teenagers kind of are,
Yeah, but I think I was like perpetually angry and like bitter, and I just did not have a good approach to life, even though I had a really good support system around me and great friends. Like I had everything a person wanted. I think I was just like not as grateful for what I had until like I turned 18. That's when like my senior year of high school, like I completely flipped. I was like, I'm not living this life right. But what I try to do now is like, you still have so many lessons to learn up until that point in your life. But, when I reflect, I'm like, how can I take like the better parts of when I was growing up, like that excitement, like I was always chill as fuck. Like, how do I get some of those pieces back while still being the person who I really enjoy today? And so gaming's kind of been like a weird way of kind of extracting some of that for me, like just states of mind, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because there are so many games I played when I was a kid, and I remember many of them, of course, but there are specific games that do bring me to a time and place and a mindset. Kid Icarus is one of those games, strangely, where I think about Kid Icarus a lot for some reason. Like it's like a seminal game for me, and it puts me back into that innocent space.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. My teenage years were when I think about some of the things I said and did when I was a teenager, not that I did anything horrifying, but that was like my worst period of my life, in a lot of ways. I think that's the way it is for many teenagers, especially those in my position probably. But yeah, I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. I mean, the things I did when I the things I did and said and felt when I was a teenager are almost like that's a totally another Colin.
Same.
I just it's funny to think that I would smash mailboxes with my friends.
Oh my God.
Or
I was too much of a bitch to do any pranks
or
that.
Drink way underage drink. Right. And go to do it's almost. But again, knowing myself now, I know why I did those things. I was desperate to belong to something,
Same.
Totally desperate, do anything to not feel lost. But you're just, again, not self-aware enough in that time. I can dissect every weird decision I made as a teenager,
Same. 100%, bro. I guess that's part of growing up.
Yeah, I hope so. For many people, it is,
Some people just don't care and they stay in that same mindset. So,
yeah.
I want to do deep psychoanalysis at some point, 3 days a week or something crazy. And it would be expensive, but get to a professional and just be we're going deep into this, all of it now, There's so much. And I think this is where my want, and Jaffe and I talk about this, my want to do ayahuasca and acid and all that kind of stuff is to just connect with all this weird shit and start unlocking things and going places and using some of that wisdom that you inherently build up with life to start going back and dissecting things anew. I think for a lot of people, it's going to be incredibly painful, but
yeah, don't lose yourself doing it.
Yeah, I won't.
It's dicey.
Yeah, maybe I will. Who knows? Mike, you'll be all right.
Well,
no, I'm going to end up like that. I'm going to end up like that lady on Reddit whose husband went to some weird retreat, an Aaron Rodgers retreat. And then he came back and was like, I don't like you anymore. And he divorced her and changed his entire life, changed his career and everything. And it was oh, whoa. All right. As long as we don't do that, we're fine.
All right. I'm satisfied. We can move on, Colin, for your topic.
Yeah, let's stay in a heady space as we wrap things up. I wanted to talk a little bit about space travel. So space is one of my favorite things. It's always been. I loved it. When I grew up in elementary school, I went to a planetarium in New York City and I bought, it must be from early space shuttle missions in the 80s, but it's the iconic picture of the spacewalking astronaut in the white suit. And he's facing, it's a real picture. I had that on the back of my door and I would just stare at it. And I was totally obsessed with it. And I don't know if you guys saw a recent story where 2 astronauts are kind of somewhat stranded right now on the space station. No one's really talking about it, but they were supposed to be up there for a week and they've been there for 2 months. And it's getting to the point where it's going to be an issue. And apparently it has to do with a Boeing spaceship. And I was reading something where I'm the problem with these people now is that the one person in the one company they can ask for help. Oh, they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So see what goes on with that. And I'm wishing them the best because an amazing thing, and this is a little fucking crazy actually when you think about it, the United States has never lost any of its astronauts in space. The only astronauts we've ever lost were either leaving or coming back because those are the most dangerous parts of the trip. And so the Challenger blew up on the way there, Columbia blew up on the way back, but never in space. So that if they somehow for some reason die out there, which would be horrible, pretty amazing that we've come this far without death in space in orbit.
I have no idea about this. This is crazy.
But I was just wondering if it's a relevant thing to you, how you feel about it, if you think about it. I think this really, it's funny, Matty, because your original topic, we changed, I think we said it at the time, you changed topics to go to Game Informer because of what happened right before the show.
Yeah.
But originally you were talking about specifically what makes us human. And I thought these would be interesting topics to go together.
Yeah. We can still do it.
The reality about humanity. So I'm really into nerdy shit, but Lex Friedman's one of my favorite podcasters and he just published an 8-hour podcast. Did you see this? An 8-hour podcast.
Wow.
Really?
About Neuralink or whatever.
No.
And I just love all of these advancements. I think it's so amazing how humans have we're like the apex predator of apex predators. We're a completely unique species as far as we know in all of the universe, although I doubt that that's actually true. And one of the amazing things we can do, unlike any other species, is not only traverse anywhere we want on the planet with impunity, but we can go to space. And out there in space are endless mysteries and also, I think, endless answers to questions. And I'm often flummoxed by people that are very nonplussed by space travel, as if it's like, nah, or like, who cares? It's like, who cares? like we look up and an animal, like a mammal, looks up at a deer, looks up at the night sky and sees like stars, but it doesn't know anything. It might know to expect that. It probably reads something intuitively about the weather or something in that, or whatever the case might be. But like we look up and over time have figured out that these are locations and places. And around them are exoplanets and obviously some of them are galaxies themselves, and obviously massive distances, no less than 4 light years between these bodies, right? So, I mean, just impossible distance. Like at our current technology, it would take us hundreds of thousands of years to get to some of these places, you know? So we have major problems that we have to overcome before we can get out of our system. But I love this idea of space travel, going to space, and the fundamental meaninglessness, and I mean that meaninglessness in some sense of it, that we're doing it because we can. There are people out there that endeavor to do it with purpose. And I think Elon Musk is probably the most major person. It's like, we must get to Mars. Like, we must terraform Mars and give us ourselves a second chance, a second start. And this is somewhat what happens in the book series that The Expanse is based on, if any of you guys have read those or seen those shows. How they populate, you know, certain moons of Jupiter and places in the asteroid belt like Ceres and Mars, and these different like different societies end up growing in these places, where like the Martians are human, the Earth people are humans, but they don't really like each other, and all of this. It can get deep into the sci-fi weeds, but I actually like the meaninglessness of it, that we just do it because we're curious. And I'm so excited, although it seems like it's getting set back a little bit, that we're going back to the moon in a major way. And we're going to have people landing on the moon in the coming years. And the Chinese are as well. And I think that this is going to open up a lot of contemporary wonder about what is possible out there that I think has been lost since the Apollo mission stopped in the early 70s. If you talk to those people that worked on that, and I've read many books about the Apollo missions and about early NASA, their expectations were like that we would be on Mars in the 80s or 90s. I mean, that's how ambitious they were, and like the trajectory that they thought things were going to go. And we've really slowed down a great deal, and primarily because it's very expensive. A lot of people say it's because it's dangerous, and it is, but everyone involved knows that they can die doing it. And I think a lot of people would very willingly die to do it too. I know that to be true. Like, that's how obsessive a lot of the astronauts are. I'm pretty sure that they did like some sort of survey with NASA astronauts. There's like, 300 of them or whatever that they don't all go to space, but that are like identified as pilots and science specialists and all this that would go. And I'm pretty sure like a massive majority of them are like, yeah, we would go on a suicide mission to Mars. In other words, like, if we could send you to Mars, we can send you. The problem with going to Mars is getting you back. It's the problem with going anywhere, actually. It's trivial getting you to Mars. That's trivial. Take you 9 months, you'll land and you'll be there. Getting you back's the problem. If you're willing to stay there and die there, then can we get there quicker? And it's like some people are so desperate to explore and push the boundaries that they're like, yeah, we'll do it. And there's a part, I say it and I kind of joke about it because I don't really mean it, but it's like, I get it in some sense. Like, it's so fucking cool and fascinating and crazy that it's like, yeah, to be the one to do this, if it means I sacrifice my life on Earth forever. Yeah, it's like, I don't know that I'd really want to do that, but I get why people say that they would. And that there are people that earnestly would. So I'm just curious whether it's interstellar travel, which is far away from us. We don't know how to do that yet, really, or just interplanetary travel, or just going into space and the private space industry and satellites and all of that, going back to the moon. If any of this is relevant to you, or if you're very much keep your feet on the earth and your eyes looking down, and also that there's much about this planet that we ourselves don't understand, including in the oceans, very much in the oceans. But to me, I'm like, I don't care. We could do that forever, and like people can always do that. But we need to start building the tools necessary to get into space easier. We need to invest in space elevators. I really feel this kind of stuff where it's like we need to start getting things into space is expensive because we have to build things on Earth and shoot them into space. What if you can build things in orbit? You know, let's get a generation ship going in the next few generations of humanity. Like build something real and be like, we're going to go to a Alpha Centauri 4 light years away. It's going to take at 10% the speed of light with some technology we've not discovered yet. It's going to take you guys a long ass time. 10% of the speed of light would get you there in 40 years. So it's going to be something less than that. I don't know. I just want more ambition, more investment. It's so exciting. I don't know. In other words, I don't know how people look at that and be like, who cares? Oh my God. It's the next frontier. Brad, let's hear from you first.
I think space travel is interesting. I would like to see people venture out there, of course, if they want to. And it sounds like there are people that want to. I personally don't want to go into space right now because it is very dangerous. And I'm not ready to fucking blow up into space quite yet. We're not there yet. And there's still a lot on this planet Earth. I have not seen it. I would like to experience. But like the generation ship is something interesting, Colin, because it's like, yeah, you're sending these people out to pretty much essentially die, I guess, or whoever's, they don't know where they're going to go. All the people that are born on this ship, are they going to be happy with where they're at or what their life is? Are they going to be angry that they're on this spaceship? It's a interesting moral question I think about a lot.
Yeah, the show Ascension, there's a Netflix show Ascension that deals with that, but it's very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because like, yeah, it's not just you, it's who comes after you that has to deal with all that kind of shit. And who knows what you'll even find or if you'll all just run out of food or die or something along the way. But it is interesting, like man has always, or just humans in general have always wanted exploration and to see more. It's just kind of in our nature to venture out into the unknown, and space is the final frontier, I guess, along with some of the ocean that we don't know. So yeah, I totally understand people wanting to see it, but it's just like, I don't know what we're going to find out there or if anything will even be worth it. What is like, what's the point of doing it, I guess, except for, did you just want to know? Which is fine, I guess, but
yeah, like I'm not one of these people that's like, first of all, there's a lot we can know and a lot we can explore and ultimately get us to other, planets and bodies and mine things. Like we would have unlimited amounts of, if we made a Dyson sphere around the sun, we would have like unlimited power forever. If we
could do it.
Yeah, exactly. If we mined asteroids, we would have unlimited ore, like unlimited silicon, unlimited, like whatever we wanted. So but I'm not one of those people that makes those arguments because they're almost not for me to make. Right.
Sure.
I'm more of, and it's, people would say like, well, that kind of makes it different from the age of exploration on Earth, which it does, because the age of exploration on Earth was not out of curiosity. It was to find trade routes and to like make money, lots of money, to exploit places, and that's fine, and that's the way colonialism worked on Earth. But it's got to be deeper than that for this, because it requires so much. Like it has to be out of the sheer, you can't sell a Mars mission being like, maybe we'll find water at the poles and we can terraform the planet and do all that. It's like, dude, that's like, there's so many steps ahead. Like at first we have to just go for the fucking love of the game, right. And I think that there's something, I think there's such heroic people like Buzz Aldrin and all those guys that went to the moon in the various Apollo missions. And it's like, can you imagine that? Like really sit and think about that. Not even going there, which is in itself insane, but walking on it. You were there. You were there. It's fucking crazy to me. And I think that's a selling point in and of itself. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
You were there. I mean, that's like, and you said, it's funny because I would go into space if I was given the option now. Obviously, there's not much that I would be able to do or what I could go, but there are kind of the beginning of commercial space flight with things that arc into the low Earth orbit and come back or whatever. I'd do that in a heartbeat right now. Like, I think it's safe, and it's probably not that safe, but it's safe enough, and I would do it, and to experience zero gravity and all of that. But it's what could be laying out there for us that I think ultimately is what drives us. But the galaxy, I was reading this recently, the galaxy expands at the speed of light, right? And it's 13 billion years old, but the universe does expand at the speed of light, and it's 13 billion years old, 13.6 or whatever. but the distance that between one side of the universe and the other is thought to be more like 96 times that or something like that because of the blue shift and all of these different things and everything. It's where the Big Bang comes from, that everything's moving away from each other and expanding away. And so it's infinitely big. I was reading something that was so interesting where they were like, if you believe the Earth is, or the universe rather, is conceivably infinitely big, it means that your experience itself has happened infinitely. Not only is there like other life and all of that, but like you exist somewhere else. You, like Earth, the exact replica of Earth has happened somewhere else and all of that's crazy. And we can only start scratching at the edges of these questions that are not going to be answerable, most of them, if we just begin to endeavor to do it. And yeah. So anyway, Matty, where are you on space travel?
Yeah, obviously there's the natural excitement and the curiosity of what's out there. I approach it with a little more caution. Like right now, there's like an outer space treaty in place that's like, you know, for example, I think about when you introduce new territory, you introduce new opportunity, but also something that humanity naturally wants to stake its claim in. And I don't think all of a sudden all of these various nations on Earth are going to become agreeable as they decide how they would want to split up something like Mars. Now, there's a treaty in place that says like no one or a nation or anyone can claim like a moon or a celestial body or anything like that. But I feel like if you get to that point where it's like, hey, we can go here and people can live here, that it's going to go back to the beginning in a sense. Like we'll have more technology to start off with, but you're going to have to start cordoning off areas like, you know, what's like Mars, China versus Mars, Italy, and so on. Like that sort of thing is where my head goes to. And does that, you know, incite any sort of wars, territorial claims, that sort of thing? And I guess it's beyond the thought of, you know, like the excitement of what's out there. It's like, well, once that opportunity is presented, you know, you have access to all these resources, a new space race begins, and like, do you benefit from having like a transport of materials back and forth between these two planets? Does that strengthen you on Earth? Do you discover something that, I mean, this is a big galaxy brain thing, but you discover something that makes you so powerful that you could take over effectively? So I think about that a little bit as well. Like obviously there's excitement of like, with a dosage of optimism, what space travel can bring. But I also think it will bring more problems too. Like I do believe it's going to bring, you know, that they're not going to be amicable. It'll be like, oh, you get this part over here, you get this part over here. Like it's going to be
no way.
Dick measuring contest and all that fun stuff again. And with us being more advanced than ever before, you know, it makes me wonder a little bit. Obviously right now with the way things are going on the moon, like it seems, you know, everyone's got access to this place. So who knows, maybe it'd be a new beginning, or, you know, like a crazy idea. This has never happened, but like a whole nation just leaving Earth and moving to a new planet to begin anew would be fucking crazy.
That happens in
like,
Mass Effect, right? The
yes, actually it
they're
does.
chased off their home planet by the Geth.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. And so there's a lot of ways I think about it. To me, like you're like ripping facts on like the science of it and stuff. Like I think I approach it more fantastically, if you will, as in like the opportunities that are born from it and other potential outcomes that are, I don't know if I would say they were always fully rooted in reality like that. Like, I don't know if what I'm suggesting would actually come to pass, but I would say it's a worry of mine for sure. Would I do it? Not until I knew it was 100% safe. Like I can do it, but like I still get a little like brief dosage of anxiety before I get on a plane. And the idea of like, that's safe, tried and true, at least mostly Mr. and Mrs. Boeing. But for the most part, pretty good. Now it's like introducing a whole new level of like, well, now you're fucking outer space, Matt. And you don't just like land if something's going wrong. Like you're just up there, brother. So
oh yeah, you're fucked if something goes wrong up there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like at least there's a degree of like, oh, if something happens to the plane, like we have landing strips. It's like, I think about that as well. Like you talked about building stuff in space. It's like, do we have like mid ports, if you will, that are just floating out in outer
that's
space?
Kind of what I think. That's kind of the approach that they're taking with Artemis, like the new moon missions, where there's like all these different ways to do it. And they decided to do it where they would build a space station orbiting the moon. And that's like what you would go to. And then you would take other transportation from that space station down to the surface to kind of like separate it into sections. So like, I guess failure would only affect one portion of it and can be fixed or whatever.
Then there's to my understanding, be like a dependency on gravity that like, this isn't going to, this is my lack of knowledge. Here's what I mean by like, I haven't studied like directly, deeply the science of it, but like, how do you, let's say you build something between Earth and the moon, like how does that not just like drift off course?
Well, I think that it's like,
oh fuck, we're out here by this black hole. Oh, no,
I think this is like Newtonian physics. I'm not obviously a mathematician at all, but I think that it's like gravity. There's like 4 forces in the universe, and gravity is like the weakest of them. It's like the strong force, the weak force, and all that kind of stuff. Electromagnetism, and there's very specific math about 2 bodies' gravitational interaction with each other, where you just know exactly where to place things to make it. So like with complete certainty. That's how we send things in orbit around the planet all the time too. So there's just it's well beyond me. That was what was so complicated, and I think that's crazy all the time. By the way, it's like we're gonna send this probe to Jupiter, which is planets away, right? It's Mars, and then the asteroid belt, and then all the way out to the gas giants, and like we just hit it.
Yeah,
like,
I think of it like
it's not where it is; it's where it's going.
Like a basketball hockey game, just some dude in like a mascot fires off the probe and off to Jupiter it goes.
It's just crazy that it's like going to a place in space where the planet isn't until exactly where they intersect, and it works.
Didn't think of it that way. Yeah,
you know what I mean. And that's how you know the math is like really, really sound. And I was, it's funny because I brought this up a little bit earlier, but I'm reading the 3-Body Problem, the Chinese sci-fi trilogy, and I'm on the second book now, or maybe I brought this up on Sacred Symbols, and that's the 3-Body Problem. Is a scientific problem. I didn't really know anything about this, but when 2 bodies interact with each other gravitationally, whatever they are, like the math is completely predictable. And in some cases, they were saying like billions of years into the future, you can relatively predict these things. And when you have 3 bodies, it becomes complete chaos. Like you can't make predictions with any certainty when 3 bodies interact with each other gravitationally. I guess in some major ways, it's called the 3-Body Problem. And that's why I think, and that I won't spoil the book, but that's kind of that whole problem is central to why things are happening.
Yeah.
And how unsettled they become when you get away from these bipolar things. So for the time being, like we should just appreciate that we understand the celestial mechanics of 2 bodies interacting with each other, and use that to our greatest advantage. It's exciting, in my opinion. But
there's something, there's something about it. Not something about it. I know I want to learn more about it because on a deeper level, because like a lot of what I appreciate in like entertainment is rooted in space and sci-fi and technology and that sort of thing. So to just get a better grip on that stuff, is something I definitely want to do. Because again, I approach it with like a lot of wonder. Like I've done the basic know-how, but like in the terms of like some of the shit you're talking about, like a lot of it's very new to me, which is what's exciting because it's I think right now there's a degree of like I've talked about it with entertainment. It's a degree of comfortability, like we have it all figured out. I think what's exciting about like space and even water is while the ocean's like creepy as fuck, it's like we don't really know everything. And there's a degree of that, obviously an extreme degree of that with like outer space travel. And that's part of why I'm like a little hesitant about it too, is I'm thinking like, well, we don't even know everything about this planet yet. And now we're going to go off and fuck up another one. Like I just, part of it's like, let's figure out what we can get out of this. Like as humans would do, let's wring this out for all it's worth and see what else we got here. Cause I think even with some of the resources we have available, like in the United States, for example, like we don't fully utilize them to their max potential, where we could be a far more self-sufficient nation. And the idea of just like going to a whole other planet to find like more resources, it's like, so you can fuck up using that too. Like, I don't know. I think about it, I guess, a little differently, but it's exciting nonetheless. And it's something I want to continue to study deeper. Cause like usually when I pick up a book, obviously it's like a nonfiction book, but I've been leaning more and more toward like history books. And I'm thinking like, maybe I'll drop that for a little bit. Cause I always just like, I'm a World War II nut. Like I'll always just like anything World War II related. I'm like, oh, let me check that out. And at a certain point, I'm like, I'm spinning my wheels here. Like I know a lot about this era. And so maybe I'll shift some of my learning based reading to space, because I think that'd be good. I mean, do you have any recommendations? Like, off the top of the head? If not, no problem.
No,
But
I have many. I'm just trying. There's a lot of stuff on I always recommend this really interesting, readable pop science book called Packing for Mars, which is by a woman named Mary Roach. It's about all the things that you don't think of that need to be solved before we can do interplanetary travel. Like lots of like totally random shit you would never think of. And it's really, really well done. I love that book. Maybe that's a good place to start.
Okay, cool.
You're right, though, to have this instinct that it could go haywire, like geopolitically, just because we already know, like we're both the United States and China are angling to be on places on the moon where they think they'll have access to certain things. We think that there's like water under the surface of the moon, specifically at the poles where things are like permanently, because the moon is tidally locked. It doesn't rotate. So it's always facing the planet. So there's parts of it will get the sun. Sometimes parts of it will get the sun other times, but along like where there's like these craters that have shadows that cast shadows where they think there can be like permanent surface ice in these places because they'll never get the sun no matter what. And having access to those kinds of things is going to be important up there. Like you're going to need to recirculate tons of resources there. You're going to need to become completely self-sufficient. So, or very self-sufficient, as if you're on a colony on Earth in the 1500s and you have no access to anyone or anything. It's going to be similar, although way more dangerous. So I think that those things will happen. I actually think there is, in my opinion, some righteousness. If the United States paid for, went to space, claimed a part of the moon, it's like, I think that's okay. You know, it's not okay, like you said, with current treaties, but like we're going to like go do all the legwork and all the hard work and access all these things and be like, everyone can have it. It's like, well,
it's just impossible to imagine nowadays.
I just don't think that that's even reasonable, you know, unless we're,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, unless it would be cool, like in the book that I read earlier in the summer, the Project Hail Mary, which is a fiction book by Andy Weir, the guy that wrote The Martian. There's a cataclysm in that book so bad that all of Earth basically pools its resources into a single space entity. And that would, obviously that's a very dramatic thing to do, but it would be cool if, this is why I don't mind private companies going to and kind of taking over spaces, because it's like, it would be preferable to have multinational companies doing this as opposed to individual nations. Because I can't really blame the nations for saying like, we are claiming this part of the moon. We went here, we did the work.
Yeah. And
and it's like, why wouldn't you do that? You know?
It's literally the definition of like, we found it first.
Right.
And that's what I mean by like, it activates a new space race, because it's really about who gets there quicker and can spread out the most and stake your claim, create those borders again, you know? And it makes sense. It's just a little worrying on like how that can expand where, you know, you get war on Mars while Earth is in peace or something like that. You know, it's like, it's an interesting thought exercise, I think.
Micah, I know where you stand a little bit more on this, but I'd like to hear you at more length.
Oh, sure. You guys bring up so many good points. Like Matty, there was news very recently, like just this past week, that they have now theorized that there is a very thick layer of diamonds under the surface of Mercury. And of course, the question is, well, if it is there, how would we get it? And then thinking, though, who owns it? Is it, if it's some private company that gets there and figures out how to drill these diamonds out of the surface of Mercury, it opens up so many questions from the political side of, who owns these resources? What good is there to be found if we do start taking diamonds from Mercury? Do we need them yet? Type deal. Do we kind of sit on that knowledge until we actually would say, oh, we actually need these? Or is it just going to be some new scheme for some guy? This will be the new gold rush, essentially, of, these rich tech bros being like, we're going to get the diamonds out of Mercury and this is going to be our new thing. The parts of space exploration that I appreciate are strictly things like the James Webb, telescope, sending us pictures of really cool shit. I like stuff like that. I like just having this telescope floating through space and transmitting back to us images of things we have never seen before. I love that. The idea of space travel is something I have no interest in. Much like Matty, I'm like, I am getting on an airplane thinking, I hope we're fine. There's no way you'd catch me going on any sort of trip ever. And I just also say, and why? Because we really aren't at the stage yet where we're like, we need to go colonize Mars because the Earth's going to blow up in 5 years. Like, I don't know. I have very little interest in that scheme of things, mostly because I hope I'm dead before anything like that is necessary. But it would just be like, yeah, I think it's cool that we send out telescopes, and I think it's cool that we had like a little Curiosity rover, you know, that type of stuff is totally fine with me. And I enjoy hearing the updates about it. But otherwise, like, I don't know, actually thinking of space travel hits me with a big why to a certain degree. I don't want us to find alien life, if I'm being honest. I don't want us to interact with that at all. It feels like a total monkey's paw situation if we did find like life on another planet, and then it's like, well, are we going to fight with it as we do most things? Is it going to be cool with us?
That's what happens in Mass Effect. We immediately start fighting the aliens when we find them.
Yeah.
And they think we're crazy. All of them think we're crazy like years later, you know.
I just don't want it. I hope that I am long dead before they find a planet with life on it. Even the curious side of me just doesn't want to deal with the implication of, well, does this mean war? Does this mean they're going to come here? I don't want to deal with any of that. It's just like totally no. Who wants this? And that's what it comes down to with discovering some of these resources. Like, it's cool that Mercury might be full of diamonds, but just knowing that, I'm like, man, is this going to be the new slavery of like, you know what, we're going to send the prisoners to Mercury to mine the diamonds, and it's going to be a Red Rising situation on protocol there. Like,
yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
it's just like, dude, I don't know. I think humans are fucked. I think, and I just mean in terms of their attitudes and general like wicked ways. And I see something like this, and it's like, I should just be like, oh man, it's cool if there's diamonds on there. But my first thought is somebody is going to get manipulated into getting these. Some other dude's going to be very rich because of it. And there is no greater good to finding this. It's just another hiccup. It's just another thing that's going to cause problems. Mm-hmm. But in general, when we have things like the space telescopes that are really cool, I'm into that. I'm into all that type of shit. I got to give a shout out to a very special episode. Who remembers this one? Punky Brewster. The episode Accidents Happen, which was about, I think, the Challenger exploding. I just love that they named it Accidents Happen. First of all, like very nonchalant, like, you know, fucking spacecraft exploded. All the kids watched it on TV. Accidents happen. Because the whole point was that Punky Brewster wanted to be an astronaut. You can watch it on YouTube. It's a cute little episode, despite the horror.
Subject matter.
Right. The whole thing, it really is one of the weirdest episodes of TV ever, because they make it so much about, but I wanted to be an astronaut. And it's like, people died, Punky. Like, Jesus Christ. Can you stop thinking of yourself for one fucking second?
Did Cherry have a belt around her head? Trick question. She always had a belt around her head. What was with that? What was with that best friend character on Punky Brewster?
I don't fucking know. I haven't seen much of the show. But that episode will always stand out of like, Jesus Christ, who greenlit this? Because it just comes off as so insensitive in the first place that we're essentially making the Challenger explosion all about this child who wanted to be an astronaut. And it's all about her astronaut dream being dashed. And it's like, oh my God, this is such a weird thing to do. But no, generally speaking, Colin knows I don't care much for outer space. I think we should just leave it alone. But I don't care much for a lot of things. When Colin mentions like the Grand Canyon, it's like, oh, big whoop. It's just a big hole in the ground. Who cares? Like, it's just.
Don't you realize that we're the only species on this planet that knows that there's something more to this than that?
There it is.
That's not amazing to you? I don't know. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. There's no, there's no way that anyone can convince me that we're like not conscious in some sense in order to glean even more information about our surroundings. In other words, species just remain stagnant. They do evolve over time and become smarter. There's a theory that we developed language randomly very quickly, for instance, based on like a mutation in one of our genes. And Micah, you and I have talked about this before. Like Cro-Magnons were really more Neanderthals and Denisovians and all of that. Like ancient humans walked around the planet for millions of years without doing anything, like not one step in any direction, just using the same basic tools, the same knowledge. It's like, it's crazy that we got out of that cycle that no other animal has gotten out of. And I think we should use it, although you're talking about finding life. There are all these interesting theories about why we don't find life. And part of it is time and space. Obviously, a major part of it is time, is especially a big part of it. Like, we've only been putting out signals of our own existence for 100 years or so to like anyone that would know how to read it. So imagine that, like, based on how old the universe is and how old the galaxy is and all the rest. But a lot of it is too, I love the theory that like when species become clever enough to project themselves, they don't, like, they know better. There's something about, this is kind of what Mass Effect's about as well, is the recycling of life and all of that. So I don't know. It was just a topic that was on my mind specifically because of the astronauts. I was going to save that for another topic just based on what happens with them. I think they'll be fine, but it'll be an interesting story to talk about in and of itself, that are stranded up there right now. But in the meantime, I just wanted to know where your guys' minds were at with that. Nothing really more to say about it. Shout out to all the scientists and engineers and all these guys that figure these things out and make these amazing spacecraft that work in zero gravity and the vacuum of space. I mean, it's just unthinkable shit.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I just look out to space and I just want to know so much more. You guys never sit and think about the idea that isn't it just weird?
Well,
I so much to see on
works,
Earth.
like, just not existence. It's like, it's very like pothead, like, ooh, but it's like, we're on a planet, a ball of rock that is holding us here. And it has a biosphere and an atmosphere and all of these things that keep us totally inoculated from the outside. The rays of the sun and all these different things, the electromagnetic field protects us from all of this solar wind, and we just kind of like chill here, and everything else we see in our own system is completely inhospitable. Whether it's Venus, which would crush, it has like 200 times Earth's pressure, it's 800 degrees on the surface. Mercury is like right next to the sun. Jupiter and Saturn and Uranus and Neptune, these are gas giants and like if we could step on Jupiter, we would just get crushed. And we're just like in this space where it all works. And I've been reading about this idea called the finely tuned universe. This theory that everything just happens to allow for this to happen. In other words, the strong force and the weak force are just so that molecules interact with each other in such a certain way. And carbon does this, and hydrogen and helium do this, and all this sort of thing. Everything is just structured in such an interesting way that, in my opinion, and it's not a religious thing or a spiritual thing, it's a universalist thing, in my opinion, where like there are answers to why this is, in my opinion. Like, there's got to be a reason. Everything has a value. Outside of the event horizon of a black hole, all of the science works 100% of the time. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is insane.
And I think it's like the craziest thing. It's so crazy that you can't even think about it sufficiently.
Right.
And
I think for one thing, we're never going to understand everything. It's impossible. And there's just going to be theories about stuff all the time. But there's theories for everything with no concrete evidence. There's just theories about stuff, and we'll never know everything. Yeah, we'll find out some more stuff, but I'm kind of okay with not knowing everything. And I do like acknowledge like how insane, like even just how your human body works and all that shit. It's like fucking insane. It's wild how this works. But I just don't think, like, me personally, I like find the need to like express it very frequently. I'm okay with just understanding how crazy stuff is on my own. But I do want to learn more, of course. Like, if I had the opportunity to learn more, absolutely, I'd want to know, especially if it's true. I'm not so into just theories all the time. I think they're fascinating, but I want truth more than that.
Me too. I think it's remarkable in my opinion. I just wanted to kind of
the
go
universe
off on that
is an insane thing. How, like you're saying, how like we are on this just one planet that works for us, and we could not live on anything else. We can't even fucking breathe anywhere else. But how the chances are that we're out here, it's like we said, crazy that it's just the way it is.
It's life's. I think it's just it is the biggest mystery of existence is like what like. I'm so fascinated by the fact that we're surrounded by this thing called dark matter that we know is there. There's actually more dark matter than real matter. And yet we don't even know how to, and this is the craziest thing, perceive it.
Yeah.
Like we don't even know how to perceive it. We just know it's there based on the way other things interact with it. Yeah. It's very similar to a black hole in the sense that like you can't see the black hole. You just know it's there because of how everything reacts to it. And I'm like, that's so fucking insane, dude. That doesn't even make any sense. You know?
Yeah, the universe is crazy.
And dark energy and all that kind of stuff. It's just, so many interesting things. And then it all apparently just sprung into existence.
Yeah, I'm curious, Colin. What do you think? Do you think you will? I'm curious about this. When we die, do you think we'll learn some answers or anything like that?
I think we'll know more than we do now, but I think that I agree with you that it's almost unknowable. There's this classification of civilizations that this one guy did, like, you know, like a kind of a theoretical astronomer, where he's like, I think it's 1, 2, and 3, and I think 3 is the worst. And it's like a level 3 civilization is in the midst of mastering its own planet, basically. And that they theorize that civilizations can get so powerful that they can basically eventually get to a civilization 2, I think it is, which manipulates their entire system. And then a first civilization that would be able to manipulate the entire galaxy, basically. Mm-hmm. And if that's true, and it's just a theoretical framework through a human lens, that means that we don't know anything. And I think it's clear that we don't know anything. Shit, dude, if these spaceships and UFOs and all these things are real, then we definitely don't know anything. I mean,
right.
How they got here, what they're doing, what they're made of, who's piloting them. Like, we don't know a fucking goddamn thing. They manipulate gravity and do all these weird things. We just theoretically, we're trying to figure out how to make like conventional things go faster. And these things are working in different frameworks of physics that we don't even comprehend. And so, no, I don't think we'll have, but I think we'll have more answers. I think my real dream with space travel, especially, is by the time I'm an old man, it would be amazing if I can spend a lot of money, if I had it, to go to the moon. Even if you just went around it and came back, which I think would be a theoretically possible thing for commercial space flight by then. I'm not saying there's going to be moon hotels and all that kind of stuff. I'm saying like you go and like go around and come back like Apollo 8 or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
I would shit myself if I could do something like that. And I just want a taste of it. It's what Matty was saying about the generation ship. Like the frustrating thing about living now, in some sense, is like we know we're not going to know a lot of these things. And you almost become jealous of what will become, like the generation on the generation ship that arrives somewhere, you know. It was all for that. And so, you know, you have to have these building blocks, you know, Copernican physics and Newtonian physics and Einsteinian physics and all these things are building blocks to understanding more and more. And I just hope that I get to like have some sort of taste of, like, I just want to see people on the moon again, which we're going to be close to. And I want to see people on Mars. And I think that's going to happen too. So where we go from there, I don't know. But I just wanted to get your guys' pulse. We can revisit this in the future. And see what's what. There's so many different strings to pull.
Definitely want to read a couple of books. I was looking some up.
Good.
While we were talking, I definitely want to study up a little bit more.
Yeah, there's so many good things. I mean, there's a lot of good space history too. If you want to read about like Mercury and Apollo and Pioneer and all the and Skylab and all the random shit. And the Russians too. Really, the Russians did a lot of things before we did. So we only surpassed them really optically when we went to the moon first and like landed on it, and they never were able to do that. But they sent probes to like Venus in the 60s and shit. I mean, it's crazy when you think about it, you know?
Yeah.
They got like pictures of the Venusian surface in the 60s. You have to like go under the clouds, and then you have to survive long enough to get the pictures out and all that kind of crazy, man. Anyway, let's go around the horn and say goodbye to everyone. Thank you for dealing with my topic as we close this out. Micah, goodbye to you. We have dinner tonight, but we have some hours to go until we have to go. So I'm going to go in the pool, I think.
Where are you guys going to eat?
Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel, yeah.
Cracker Barrel?
No, we're not going to Cracker Barrel. Although I'm coming around on Cracker Barrel. You know, I like it. I just don't want to use our Friday dinners to go to Cracker Barrel because we go to dinner every Friday.
Hey.
We basically ping pong between a few restaurants, but we're going to go to Taza tonight, which is a great little restaurant.
What kind of food is it?
It's like Americana and some Mexican. So you can get like steaks, burgers, and all that kind of stuff, but then you can get like tacos.
Well, how's the Mexican food there, Colin?
It's like shishi Mexican. It's not, like mom and pop Mexican, but it's good. I actually, my appetizer when I go there, I actually get carnitas tacos as my starter, like just little street tacos.
Nice.
And they make really great cocktails there as well. So we like to go there. And so that's where we're going to go tonight. And it's fucking hot as balls out, 94. So go see if I can get into the pool. I don't know. It might be a little too hot to even use it. We'll see. Micah, anything to say as we go?
I get to go see a leopard gecko soon because I watch the family leopard gecko, your sisters, when they, leave for the weekend. I go feed the lizard, check on it. He kind of scares me, but I'm happy to do it, but he kind of freaks me out. I don't really
this
like
is my nephew's pet.
It's the whole thing. Yeah. His name is Yoshi, and he's a very well-behaved lizard, but I prefer when he's in his little like hideaway rock and I don't have to see him. Sometimes though I get paranoid that he's not in the rock. Then I have to lift it up to make sure he's in there. Right. Then I have like, I don't like it. Right. But that's what I'm going to be doing immediately after this is going to check on that little lizard and, throw away his poop and such.
All right. Well, be well. Godspeed to you. MrMattyPlays, goodbye to you. Have a great weekend.
You too, sir. It was great to do this. Had a lot of fun. As always, I walk away with, more knowledge of the world every time I do a Constellation episode, I feel. Cool. But also just a lot more laughs, a lot more smiles. And my brother's staying over this weekend, so it's going to be a fun time. And that'll be nice. Hosting 2 weekends in a row, though. So I'm going to take some me time after this for sure. And the next weekend, I will be doing nothing.
Yeah, it seems like when it rains, it pours in our lives as well.
Yeah, literally. Like I didn't plan it this way. It just kind of ended up happening where that was when he was available. I was like, all right, like let's just do it.
Just get through it. Right? Yeah, put your shoulder.
And then afterwards, I've paid my dues and I get to be antisocial for a while. Man.
Sounds great.
So as always, great being here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Brad, goodbye to you. Have a great weekend out there in California.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. I'll maybe hit the beach, but it's getting towards the weekend, so it might be crowded. So I might skip that. But definitely going to go to the gym after I eat some lunch.
Cool.
Nice.
Gotta stay on that, man.
Yeah, be fit. Good. Very good. All right, my friends. Well, thanks again. Thank you all out there for your love, kindness, and support. Last Stand Media. All of our things can be found. All of our shows. They're not things, they're shows. Patreon.com/laststandmedia. Laststandmedia.store for merch. We'll see you next time for more. Until then, goodbye. Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, Dagan Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman, and is edited by associate producer, Ben Smith. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.